mists curled low over the godswood of the Red Keep as dawn seeped pale and reluctant through the canopy. In the gentle hush before sunrise, Catelyn Stark. No, Catelyn Tully once more, though the truth clung painfully behind her ribs, stood barefoot on damp grass, her linen skirts heavy with dew. She had come to whisper prayers to the weirwood, despite the southerly soil that had never known winter's bite. The red leaves, wet and rustling in secret conversation, accepted her lamentations in silence. Beyond the gnarled white trunk, King's Landing roused itself. The whinny of a bay courser in the outer stables, the distant rasp of a portcullis chain, the smell of river and refuse drifting from the black water. She traced a familiar groove of bark beneath the heart tree's bleeding face and felt, with a twist of grief, that she was already forgetting the feel of snowy pines and frozen lake light upon Winterfell's towers. Too early for tears, my lady. The voice, warm as mulled wine yet edged with something steel-hard, came from the moss-dark archway. Ser Barristan Selmy stepped into view, helm cradled in one crook of his elbow, gray hair tousled from the practice yard. He offered a small bow, hesitant courtesy between battlefield seasons. I thought to find the godswood empty. Catelyn pressed the last of her prayer into the wood, letting it bleed away with the red sap. Empty places suit sorrow, sir, but they do poorly for counsel. Have you news? His weathered face remained a map of discipline. The king asked for you at first light. No further explanation. Barristan seldom wasted words, but his gaze softened in pity before drifting aside. She straightened, smoothing her gown, knowing pity to be the heaviest of shrouds. She brushed needles from her hair and followed him along the cobbled walk, each footfall echoing like a tolling bell in her ears. Raindrops began to patter. Across the outer ward, the gold cloaks drilled in unwavering rows. Spears bit the sky as if seeking permission to pierce it. Catelyn recognized the uneasy rhythm beneath their discipline, a city whose peace was hammered, not grown. When she had ridden south at Ned's summons all those moons ago, she'd imagined Robert Baratheon as a tale made flesh, boisterous, beloved, a thunder of smiles. Now that thunder rumbled ominous behind the doors of the small council chamber. They paused before its iron-bound oak. Ser Barristan lifted the latch for her, and the hush within rolled out like a draught from crypts. Robert Baratheon stood at the high table, hands braced on the carved oaken edge, shoulders broader than the sky beyond the narrow windows. His dark beard showed streaks of silver where wine and grief had carved tributaries. The jeweled crown glinted on the rushlight flames, yet his eyes fixed on nothing in the candlelit gloom. To his right loomed Lord Tywin Lannister, legs set apart in a conqueror's stance, mouth a hard line. Opposite him, Renly Baratheon lounged, fingers drumming restlessly on polished plate. A younger stag bristling with impatience, Grand Maester Pycelle, hovered like an aged crow near the hearth, scrolls in hand. Littlefinger, smiling thin and viper-quick, leaned against a pillar. Varys, robed in lavender silk, folded his hands upon the soft mound of his stomach, eyes half-lidded. At the sight of her, Robert straightened. Her name emerged as a weathered sigh. Catelyn. She curtsied, feeling every gaze weigh upon her. My king. He circled the table, the clink of his belt buckles loud in the stillness, and touched her arm with unexpected gentleness. I would sooner greet you with feasting and laughter, but the realm bleeds. Your husband's honor and Tywin's pride are at each other's throats. I'll hear no more talk of war. Lord Tywin's golden brows rose a hair's breadth. Honor and pride are poor terms, your grace. My men were butchered on the Golden Tooth Road. I seek justice. And I seek peace, Robert growled. He released Catelyn as if she burned him. Ned sits brooding in the Tower of the Hand, unwilling to bend. He would sooner break than clasp hands with Lannister. Yet break he will, if the kingdom shatters around us. He shoved back a fringe of dark hair, the crown skewing. I have devised a union to sow these rifts. Catelyn's throat tightened like frostbitten leather. A union. She had worn a bride's cloak once beneath Winterfell's stars, the direwolf draped across her shoulders, Ned's steady hands fastening the clasp. In her chamber the night before, she had traced the sigil with trembling fingertips, then folded the cloak away as if entombing her own heart. She understood the need for marriages to heal realms. Tully words urged it. But realms were not hearts, and hearts did not heal on command. Robert motioned Littlefinger forward. Petyr Baelish laid a single parchment on the table. Its wax bore the crowned stag and lion conjoined. The scratch of the seal breaking echoed like bone. "Speak it plain, Petyr," Robert said. Littlefinger's smile offered sympathy, yet his gray-green eyes glittered. His grace proposes in place of open hostilities and sieges, a joining of two great houses. Lady Catelyn Tully, presently wed to Lord Eddard Stark. He paused for a polite cough to mask the scandal's enormity. "Shall have that marriage set aside by royal decree. She shall thereafter marry Sir Jaime Lannister, the kin's sworn brother, securing peace between North and West." Renly sat upright, laughter aborted on his lips. Ser Barristan's gauntlets tightened audibly where they clasped. Even Pycelle's wrinkles seemed to deepen. Catelyn's breath left her. Set aside, as though love and vows were moth-eaten curtains to be changed with the season. She saw Ned's face by hearthlight, calm as morning snow, the lines beside his eyes deepening when he smiled at Bran. She heard Araya's delighted shrieks chasing Nymeria down muddy Bailey paths. She felt the hush of their bedchamber, where secrets had been shared on nights winter wolves howled. All of it placed upon a scale opposite the realm's salvation. "My lords," she began, embers scraping her throat, "Lord Eddard is my lawful husband. The gods granted Robert victory on the Trident," Lord Tywin cut in, voice like cold iron. "They'll not balk at a parchment if it keeps small folk from starving." Robert pounded the table. "I will hear no lectures on piety from a lion who counts coins for prayers. This choice is mine to make, and I make it." He faced Catelyn fully. "The High Septon will annul the marriage. The Stark brood are noble children. Their legitimacy stands. No harm shall come to them." A sudden memory rose. Anne's voice from years past, soft in the dark. "All I can give you is honor, Catelyn." She had accepted that gift, and in turn, given him every corner of her heart. Now honor itself was the knife pressed to her throat. She felt the room's air contract. Faintly, the bells of the sept tolled tierce. She lifted her chin, though her pulse hammered loud as any drum. "For the sake of the realm," she said, choosing the words as one might choose stones for one's own cairn, "I will hear Sir Jaime's intentions from his own lips. Peace forged in silence, shatters in blood." Littlefinger's brows quirked at her measured defiance. Robert's shoulders eased, as though a mountain shifted inch by inch. "Sir Jaime arrives on the morrow, under banner of truce. Speak with him, but remember." The king's voice lowered to a hoarse rumble. "If this fails, Tywin's swords march north, and Ned's honor will feed wolves and crows alike." Ned Stark watched gulls wheel over Blackwater Bay, white specks upon dawn's pewter glaze. His runes in the Tower of the Hand felt narrower each day. Stone walls crept inwards with rumors of war. He had never feared battle, but he dreaded needless slaughter. He heard Robb in every shouted cadence of the castle yards, saw Sansa's dream of courtly love in every silk-robed maiden, caught Arya's wry grin in every boy who raced barefoot across cobbles. It was the children's future that weighed heavier than steel. Footsteps approached, sandaled, measured. Varys slipped inside like perfumed fog. "My lord Hand," he cooed. "The city murmurs with talk of a creative treaty." Ned's jaw tightened. "So the spiders spin all the quicker. Merely gathering dew, my lord." He folded slender hands. "His grace means well, yet Lady Catelyn's honor stands at risk. Annulment is a blade of rare sharpness. Should it slip, none can say who bleeds." "Manners." Ned faced him fully, the sea wind tossing his dark hair. "Robert swore before gods and men we were brothers. He would not wound me thus." Varys inclined his bald head. "And yet wounds administered for the realm's health may be deepest. Ask Maegor's wives, ask the children of the Dragonknight." A silence like an unseen pit yawned. Ned's fingers rested on the hilt of ice, hanging over the hearth. A Northman's answer lay always within reach. Yet even ice could not cut parchment law. At last he said, "Catelyn's will is iron. She will refuse. Perhaps. Varys turned a ring upon his finger. Moonstones flashing. And when she refuses, Lord Tywin will march. Refugees will flood the riverlands, grain stores will burn, and small folk will curse their betters. What answer then, Lord Stark? Ned thought of Lyanna's grave. Of the stag crowned in roses. Glory soured to rot. Of all vows, twisted by politics, until even love became treason. His breath steamed upon the chill glass of the window. He whispered, "There must be another way. When the chessboard is aflame, my lord, bishops do not bargain with fire." Varys drifted toward the door, slippers whispering over rushes. "I pray for wisdom to prevail. You and your lady wife are much loved, even here." He left Ned alone with the gulls and the tremor of distant bell towers. Ned closed his eyes, hearing Robb's proud voice at 13. "One day, I'll ride to King's Landing and protect the realm like you, father." His son would have blood on his sword ere that day came, unless Ned found the path unsought. Catelyn stood upon Maegor's holdfast as sunset bled scarlet across the battlements. Below, the Red Keep's courtyards bustled with last-minute preparations. Torches filled, banners unfurled, musicians practicing gentle airs for tomorrow's uneasy feast. She braced her hands on the cold stone, remembering other battlements. Summer snows drifting over Winterfell's crenellations, Ned's cloak wrapped about her shoulders. Somewhere a door clanged and heavy boots echoed nearer. She turned. Jaime Lannister approached in plain mail and a simple crimson cloak, his golden armor set aside like vanity shed. His clean-shaven jaw caught the dying light, and his cat-green eyes flickered between curiosity and weariness. He halted an arm's length away. "My Lady Tully," he said, giving the courtesy title precisely. "There was a time you looked at me and saw only the man who pushed a boy from a tower." "I still see him," she replied, not flinching. "But I've learned the world holds evils far subtler than a fall from high stone." A ghost of a smile. "Then let us speak frankly." Wind tugged his cloak. He folded arms across his chest. "The king believes binding us will still his realm's tremors. He is wrong." "Oh, damn me." Catelyn lifted a brow. "You object?" "Object." He laughed, brief and bitter. "I am a Kingsguard knight, sworn never to wed or father children. Yet vows are parchment before royal whim." He gazed at her with sudden intensity. "Robert would break our bones to splints and remold them for his board. But wood reshaped snaps under strain." Catelyn's pulse steadied oddly in the honesty of his scorn. "Do you think me eager? My vows, my children, my marriage? What is left of Catelyn when all is stripped away?" Jaime's mouth tightened. "Regret binds no wounds. My father sees this match as the last rivet before his war machines roll north. If we refuse, he will march anyway." "Nesirni." 300 years ago," she murmured. A Stark bent the knee after the field of fire to keep his people from flame. "Some choices taste of ash. Still we swallow." He studied her a long moment, eyes flickering gold in torchlight. "You would do it then? Marry me?" "For the realm," she answered quietly. A carrion bird cawed overhead. Jaime's gaze followed its flight until it vanished in twilight. When he spoke again, his voice was low. "Very well, my lady. Then hear my own vow. If peace be the ransom for your freedom, I will pay it in full. Wed me, and I will raise no hand against Stark or Tully. I will give the North safe passage for trade. Their sons will not die on western spears." Catelyn's breath shuddered. "And if Tywin commands otherwise?" Jaime's smile was a cold slit of pale satisfaction. "My lord father forgets. Even a lion's roar must pass through its throat. And I, Catelyn, am that throat." For a heartbeat, the courtyard noises faded. Within that strange hush, she glimpsed not the Kingslayer of story but a man ringed by iron expectations, straining against them as a caged beast against bars. She could not bring herself to trust him, yet distrust alone would not still armies. "Then tomorrow we face the king," she said. He bowed, hair glimmering like tarnished sun. "As you command, my lady. Try to sleep." Dreams are kinder than dawn. She watched him descend the stairway, cloak flickering crimson until swallowed by darkness. Dreams, she thought, had long since ceased to be kind. The hall of Aegon the Conqueror blazed with torches when the morrow came, chandeliers dripping beeswax like gold tears upon the guests. Round tables of trestled oak bore trenchers of quail and capons, flagons of Dornish red and arbor gold. Lords and ladies gathered in uneasy finery, Randall Tarley speaking grimly with Hoster Tully's steward, Sir Kevin Lannister lifting a goblet with Roose Bolton, their smiles sheathed as daggers, Lord Mace Tyrell preening among his retinue. Over it all, the Iron Throne crouched, black spikes hungry for flesh. Robert entered clad in velvet midnight, the crown offset upon perfumed curls. He gestured, and silence rippled outward like a pebble dropped in still water. Catelyn and Jaime stepped forward from opposite arches, each flanked by a Septon and a Kingsguard knight. A breathless hush clung to the cavernous hall. Robert's voice cracked from wine and urgency. Lords of the realm, ladies of noble birth, small folk who keep our fires lit, today we stay the hand of war. He lifted a parchment, the decree of annulment and betrothal. The crown dissolves the union of Eddard Stark and Catelyn Tully in the name of peace, under sanction of the faith. A low murmur surged. Catelyn felt the hall's judgment upon her skin like nettles. She kept her chin high. The High Septon, robed in cloth of gold, raised his crystal censer. Let it be known, he intoned, that the seven accept vice for the realm's good. Sir Barristan stood at Robert's elbow, hand resting on sword pommel, gaze unreadable. Across the hall, Eddard Stark emerged from the shadows. His gray eyes glittered as north winter seas, fixed on Catelyn. Pain lanced through her. She pressed nails to her palms to anchor herself. Ned did not shout nor draw steel. He only shook his head once, slowly, as if watching a direwolf pup crushed beneath hooves. Then he turned and left, silent as snowfall. She swallowed a cry that would have shattered her composure and likely the fragile peace. Robert gestured to the Septon to proceed. Jaime extended his hand. Catelyn placed hers atop his, fingers trembling. In that moment, the seven above bore witness to a bond steeped in sorrow. Words were spoken, the binding phrases familiar, yet warped by circumstance. When Jaime slipped the ring upon her hand, she felt its weight like manacles. Robert let out a breath she had not realized he held. Applause began, hesitant, then rising like uncertain thunder. Across the sea of clapping hands, Tywin Lannister's face remained motionless marble. The feast resumed, yet conversation flowed in fraught rivulets. Catelyn endured toasts from lords she scarcely knew, their glances measuring. Jaime drank sparingly, responding to jests with curt smiles. When a Lannister bard struck chords of the Rains of Castamere, the hall quieted, but the Kingslayer waved him off. "No," Jaime said, voice carrying. "Play a river song." The bard, startled, shifted to an old Riverlands melody of birches weeping over gentle streams. Catelyn recognized it from childhood evenings in Riverrun's halls. Some of the tension bled from her shoulders. Later, Renly approached with 2 cups of mead, offering one to her. His green eyes shone with mischief subdued. "I wish to dance at your wedding, but one cannot dance on treacherous ice. Are you well, my lady?" "Na be. As one may be," she replied, sipping. The honey sweetness turned to ash on her tongue. Renly leaned in. "The court whispers that peace forged upon broken vows cannot last. Yet perhaps this moment buys breath enough to find gentler answers. I will seek them with you." She nodded, grateful and wary. Renly was Robert's brother, yet power shimmered about him like sunlight. Allies here were trees growing on shifting sand. As the feast dwindled, Robert drained a jeweled chalice, cheeks flushed. He rose on unsteady legs. "Enough. Revelry." The king retires. His bearded face sagged with exhaustion. But when his gaze met Catelyn's, she caught a flicker of regret deep as summer dusk. He departed through a guarded arch. Sir Barristan, a silent shadow at his flank. Catelyn lingered. Jaime watched her from beside a pillar. At last he offered his arm. She took it, and they walked through torchlit corridors toward her. No, they're new chambers. Courtiers parted like reeds in a river's path, some bowing, some staring. In the antechamber, servants lit braziers and withdrew. Jaime released her arm and closed the door, leaning back against it with a sigh. "This charade pleases no one, least of all me," he said. He unbuckled his sword belt, letting it clatter to the tiles. "I will not lie with you tonight. Rest. We face questions enough without adding more ghosts to the bed." She met his gaze. "Thank you." He inclined his head, the candlelight carving sharp planes of sorrow across golden features. Then he crossed to a carved settee beneath a window and settled upon it, legs stretched, arms folded. Catelyn slipped into the bedchamber beyond, closing the door softly. Moonlight filtered through latticework, painting ghostly bars upon the coverlets. She removed her wedding cloak, the lion replacing the direwolf, and draped it on a stool, staring until tears blurred its crimson. At the window, she looked west, toward the long road over mountains and rivers, toward Winterfell she might never touch again. Somewhere Ned paced alone beneath cold stars. She laid a hand on the glass. "Let peace hold," she prayed. "Let my children live. Let tomorrow bring a path I cannot yet see." Behind her the keep settled into night. Yet beyond its walls, ravens took wing, bearing news to every corner of the realm. News that would stir ambitions like embers beneath tinder. In the dank undercroft of Casterly Rock, torches flickered upon ranks of spearmen mustering at dawn. Lord Tywin Lannister stood among them like an iron idol, armor lacquered red gold, emerald eyes fathomless. A messenger brought word of the marriage's consummation. Tywin dismissed him with a twitch of a gauntleted hand. He surveyed his captains. "We march by fortnight's end," he said, voice flat. "The north will hold for now, but the riverlands remain a question. Crossroads are coin, and coin buys armies. We will control the trident before snows fall." One captain ventured, "And your son, my lord? Bound now to the northern lady?" Tywin's lip curled. "A sword cannot be sheathed in a scabbard of sentiment." Should Jaime waver, remind him lions do not break. We bend others. Far above, gulls wheeled in brightening sky, unaware of the slow-turning gears of war. Peace, hammered hastily in King's Landing, already groaned beneath weight of armor and ancient grudges. Robb Stark studied the letter bearing the royal seal, hands trembling. Beside him in Winterfell's great hall, Maester Luwin read aloud the decree that named his mother wed to Jaime Lannister. Grey Wind paced, ears pinned, sensing his master's storming heart. Bran, small and solemn, clutched the arms of his carved chair. Rickon burst into confused tears. The direwolves howled, their cries shivering the banners above. Robb lowered the parchment slowly. His childhood had ended in one ink-stained instant. He remembered his mother's words, spoken long ago by the hearth. "When the snows fall and the white winds blow, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives." Yet who remained of the pack when bonds were severed by royal decree? Outside, ravens beat their wings against the sky's pale lid, scattering like omens across the north. Already the great lords would be reading similar scrolls. Robb felt the weight of a crown he had never wanted press upon his brow. He rose. "Summon the banners," he said. 500 leagues south, a lion and a river trout shared an uneasy silence in moonlit chambers, each warding tenderness behind shields forged of oath and necessity. Beyond the high walls of the Red Keep, flames of campfires dotted the encircling hills, each a man's breath, each capable of feeding a larger blaze. The realm slept in wary quiet, balanced upon a blade's edge forged by one king's desperate compromise. In the stillness, a single raven's caw broke the night, wings beating toward Maegor's holdfast, as though time itself hurried forward, despite all frail attempts to slow its tide. "Dawn day. Aye." The candle in the chamber guttered low, a tiny blossom of fire bowing against its own wick, and Catelyn watched the wax river down the iron holder as though charting the courses of her life. Jaime slept fitfully on the settee, one arm dangling to the rush-strewn floor, breath a shallow rasp that seemed ill at ease with its own rhythm. She could not rest, and would not wake him. Dawn's gray hush had begun its seep under the door, threading pale fingers across the dark tiles. Her mind spun around the unspoken questions. Which portion of herself remained inviolate? Could vows forged under duress ever be considered vows at all? And if so, whose peace did they truly purchase? She rose, careful to keep her tread light upon the chilled floor, and crossed into the outer solar. A single window overlooked the rising slope of Visenya's hill. Beyond, narrow streets already murmured with the clatter of peddlers' carts, hoofbeats, and the distant clang of smiths striking new edge to brittle blades. The city never truly slept. It only paused long enough for new hungers to root. As she watched, a raven peeled away from the rookery tower, winging north-northwest, feathers blacker than coal against a blush of early sky. She pressed her palm to the glass as though she could wrest its message from the wind. Behind her, Jaime shifted, the leather of his boots creaking. "Rest does not come easily yet," he said, voice roughened by sleep. She turned. His hair, loose from its daytime tint of polish and soldierly braids, fell in a golden spill over one cheek. Some sliver of boyishness peeked out when he was not armored in reputation. It lent him a younger look, almost vulnerable. But she reminded herself of the tower in Winterfell, of Bran's broken body and the cold wind tearing at torn curtains. Some wounds refused to fade. "Rest will come," she answered. "Or it will not. Either way, the day sets its tasks before us." Jaime pushed upright and scrubbed a hand across his brow. "My day's first task seems the indignity of parading before the court as a newly minted traitor to my own vows. And mine," she murmured, "is to survive that parade with dignity." She drew a breath. "We must decide how open we wish to be." He tipped his head, studying her. "You mean whether we perform affection, hold hands, kiss like players on a mummer's stage? We stand beneath every watchful eye. One allay-cast glance could unravel what fragile peace we have purchased." Jaime levered himself up and crossed to her. "Then we shall play our parts well enough to fool the inattentive. The truly watchful cannot be deceived. But perhaps we may persuade them to let their blades rest in scabbards until we make a better plan." "Not a better plan," she echoed. "Do you have one?" "Not yet." His mouth twisted in a half-smile. "My father taught me battlefield tactics, not marital diplomacy. Still, I suspect that whatever Tywin plots, it relies on predictable responses. Let us strive to be unpredictable." "Easier said than done." "Nothing worth doing is easy," he said. "I will fetch something to break our fast. Will you accompany me, my lady wife?" "Nice." The title jarred, but she inclined her head. He offered his arm. She hesitated only a breath before placing her fingers upon his sleeve. They emerged into the corridor where two Kingsguard knights flanked the door, snow-white cloaks unblemished by the dust of waking hour. Sir Mandan Moore and Sir Preston Greenfield bowed with crisp precision, yet allowed no warmth into their gazes. Jaime acknowledged them with a curt nod. As they descended a stair of worn stone, servants scurried to light wall-mounted torches, though day already began to flood the inner courtyards. They chose a lesser gallery where the smell of fresh bread wafted from the kitchens. Jaime signaled a young page, dark-haired and keen, to bring trenchers and small beer. They settled at an oaken trestle overlooking a colonnade hung with banners. The stag, the lion, the hand, and, newly affixed, the trout of River Run quartered beside the crimson of House Lannister. The sigils fluttered in a dawn breeze, twisting round each other like uneasy lovers. Catelyn sipped beer, tasted waterness beneath the bitterness. "The banners look wrong. I imagine every banner sewn in the realm looks wrong today," Jaime said. "Heraldry is memory. Change it, and memory rebels." A cluster of nobles drifted past on the gallery's far side. Lord Giles Rosby coughing delicately into a scented cloth, Lady Tanda Stokeworth whispering behind a fan, a pair of Tyrell cousins simpering too loudly. Their eyes flicked toward Jaime and Catelyn, ripples of suppressed gossip spreading behind them like wakes. Catelyn set down the cup. "Have you any news of my husband?" "Lord Stark? None this morning." He paused. "I am told he did not sleep in the Tower of the Hand. Rumor suggests he visited the Sept in the blackest hour." "Rumor. That is ta." She laced her fingers. In King's Landing rumor moves faster than ravens. Sharper too, Jaime agreed. The realm will want to know where the former Lady Stark stands. With us? Against us? Torn between? She straightened. I stand for my children. For the small folk who would suffer under open war. For the peace your father threatens to tear apart. Hut. Nendmastopsta. Then you stand where I stand, he said simply. Whatever else might divide us. She regarded him, searching for mockery but found none. Only a weary sincerity. Before she could speak again, the page returned with trencher boards. Bread still steaming, soft goat cheese, preserved cherries and honey. Jaime thanked the boy and slid a few copper stars across the surface. The page grinned, pocketed them, and vanished. As they ate, Jaime's thoughts seemed to drift. I wonder, he said after a moment, breaking crust between fingers. If at River Run they served cherries at midsummer feasts. Cherries and sweet peaches, Catelyn replied. My father insisted the first crop went to the small folk. Only when every child on our lands was stained red with juice would the kitchens preserve the remainder. A generous act. A necessary one. Hunger is a cruel lord. He grunted. Yet, cruelty is currency in these halls. They finished the meal in contemplative silence, then rose in accord to face the day's obligations. The page reappeared as though summoned by their very movement to clear the board. Jaime clasped Catelyn's hand, warm, steady, unmistakably performative. She allowed it, telling herself it was a plank in stormy water. They navigated a maze of passages leading toward the throne room antechamber, where small council was due to assemble. The great doors loomed half open. Within, lords contested precedence in hushed groups. Catelyn's gaze swept for Ned, but found only Renly conferring with Sir Loras Tyrell, Littlefinger smiling cat-like at a cluster of minor bannermen, and Pycelle droning to a foreign envoy. At the high table, Robert sat slumped upon the dragonbone throne of Aegon's descendants, not the Iron Throne. This chamber served the councils, and lacked the forged blade monstrosity. Still Robert looked no less burdened. His crown sat askew, eyes red-grimmed from too little sleep. When Jaime and Catelyn entered, conversation faltered. Robert raised a goblet in salutary. Good. Husband and wife together. The realm's hope in flesh. His humor rang forced. Come forward, let these graybeards see you. They approached. Tywin stood at the king's right hand, armor chased with subtle lion etchings. His gaze touched on Catelyn as though she were a chance-bought mule, to be evaluated for strength and docility. She met his eyes without blinking. Robert wiped the back of his hand across his mouth. We'll begin. Varys, you have news from the Narrow Sea. The eunuch stepped light from shadow, robes whispering. Indeed, your grace. The Senni sell sails gather under a captain styling himself the Prince of Tides. He offers service to the highest bidder. His eyes flicked cat-like. Some suggest Lord Balon Greyjoy's envoys have been seen in Lys. Robert groaned. The Kraken sniffing opportunity. The Greyjoys smell weakness, as dogs smell meat. Tywin's lips thinned. Let the Ironborn raid my coasts, and we shall hang their krakens from every turret of Lannisport. We have not the ships to spare, Renly interjected. Stannis keeps the royal fleet at Dragonstone. Stannis keeps everything, Robert muttered, including my displeasure. Littlefinger stroked his pointed beard. Your grace, a rare chance lies before us. Should Lord Balon overreach, a well-timed royal censure could restore faith among your subjects. Demonstrations of swift justice soothe trembling coin purses. Robert rolled his eyes at the couching of war in terms of coin. I'll send a stern warning. If Balon ignores it, I'll send men. And ships, your grace, Varys appended. And ships. Enough on krakens. He rubbed his temples, then turned eyes on Catelyn. We must show the realm your union is more than parchment. A progress, perhaps. A journey west, then north. Faces to greet, boars to hunt, songs to be sung. My lords advise me. No. The chamber hummed. Renly suggested a tour as far as River Run to reassure House Tully. Pycelle warned of autumn sickness along river routes. Littlefinger offered to organize pageants at each stop. Tywin stood silent until all babble drained away. "Our royal progress must first secure supply," he said. "Lannisport's granaries are full from a prosperous harvest. Start there, your grace. As my son and Lady Catelyn are received with open arms, word will spread faster than ravens. From west, journey to Highgarden, then to Old Town, where the faith may bless the union publicly. Only then turn north. By the time they reach the Twins, the banners of skepticism will have folded." Renly frowned. "Old Town prolongs the route by moons, Lord Tywin." "A longer route for longer effect," Tywin replied. "Peace cannot be poured down throats in a single gulp." Robert considered, glancing toward Jaime then Catelyn. "What say the two most concerned?" Jaime lifted a shoulder. "I serve." Catelyn weighed the proposal. Travel kept one in motion, leaving no time to scheme. But it also offered chance to observe power outside the Red Keep. Chance to measure Tywin's true hold on Westeros. And perhaps, at River Run or Seaguard, she might pass messages that could shift the pieces. She inclined her head. "I will serve the Crown's will." "Settled, then." Robert slammed the goblet down. "We ride within a fortnight. Varys, arrange ravens. Renly, tally costs. Tywin, furnish escort. Sir Jaime will command the vanguard and rear guard both. None save him I trust as much." Nebuchadnezzar. The irony struck Catelyn. Kingslayer commanding the king's safety. Yet perhaps Jaime alone might ensure Robert survived his own decisions. The council turned to other matters. Grain prices rose with whispers of war. Dornish trade envoys demanded reparations for border skirmishes. A plague of spotted fever ravaged a town near the God's Eye. Catelyn listened, absorbing small grievances that, unattended, could swell into calamities. Ned had once loved this task, disentangling truth from petitioners, tempering justice with mercy. He was absent now, his chair at the table vacant. No explanation came. Robert avoided glancing that way. When at last the meeting adjourned, lords drifted to midday business. Robert called for Sir Barristan to fetch retainers for a hunt beyond the city walls. The king needed wind in his hair. Tywin conferred with Kevan and his quartermasters. Jaime detained Catelyn gently by the elbow. "Let us find Ned," he said. Together they navigated the keep, asking discreet guards and stewards. One maid swore she glimpsed the former hand riding through the city gate at dawn, cloaked and alone. The guardsman admitted Lord Stark took 2 horses, one loaded for travel. Catelyn felt her pulse thrum. Jaime turned corridors with purposeful keenness until they reached the stables. "There." Hod the horsemaster bowed, straw scattering from his surcoat. "My lord, my lady," Hod said. "Lord Stark thanked me and rode for the King's Road. Said he must breathe air untainted by stone. He shifted. He left no message I might read you. But he bade me send this if you ask." Hod produced a small cloth bundle, bound by gray ribbon. Catelyn's hands trembled as she accepted it. Inside lay a lock of dark hair, braided into a loop, and a river pebble smoothed by years, painted with the sigil of House Tully on one side, the direwolf on the other. Her throat tightened. Ned's silent language. Hair for shared life, pebble for what endured beneath rushing waters. A promise they would not be sundered. She pressed it to her heart. Did he say when he would return? Only that winter was coming, Hod said. Jaime touched her shoulder. He means to raise bannermen, or at least gauge their tempers. Catelyn looked into his green eyes, seeing not triumph, but apprehension. If Tywin marches before Ned returns, I'll not allow it, he vowed. She believed he wished to keep that vow. Whether he could against his father's iron will was another matter. They left the stables, stepping into brilliant midday sun. Catelyn felt as though she walked in 2 worlds, one of glaring heat where color shouted, and another beneath, a cold undercurrent of dread. Jaime escorted her to the east garden, where sycamore trees lent dappled reprieve. They seated themselves on a stone bench shaped like a lounging dragon. Your husband rides north perhaps to rally, he said. If Tywin perceives that as threat, blood will flow. Then we must convince him otherwise. Jaime laughed softly. Convincing my father requires leverage, rare as Valyrian steel. Perhaps not leverage, Catelyn countered, but delay. If we keep him from marching until Ned returns with truth, cooler counsel may prevail. Delwy, you propose we sabotage the lion's gears from within. I propose we turn them slowly. He leaned back, watching a blue jay flit between branches. My sister will oppose any delay. Queen Cersei's power ebbs with your father's presence. We must see that it ebbs further. Jaime's gaze darkened. Harm her, and you risk fury I scarcely restrain. I seek not harm, she said. Only distraction. He considered for a long moment. Cersei has thrived on rumors she spreads herself. Drown her voice in other whispers, and she may falter. Bashti. Catelyn's thoughts raced. Littlefinger would help if Prophet beckoned him. Littlefinger helps only Littlefinger. Yet his interests lie in sustained trade, not scorched households. He might be coaxed. Coax him carefully. A man who makes his coin from secrets rarely parts with them cheaply. They plotted until the sun slid westward, each suggestion weighed against peril. When bells chimed for evening meal, Catelyn felt newly anchored. Not safe, but purposeful. They rose in unison, a united front of necessity. At supper in the Queen's ballroom, richly draped tables groaned beneath roasted herons stuffed with dates, turnip pies latticed with buttery crust, eels in green sauce. Musicians played softly. Cersei glittered at Robert's side, emeralds at her throat mimicry of mourning for a peace she resented. Her gaze speared Jaime when he entered with Catelyn on his arm. The edges of her smile cut. My dear brother, she said as they approached. I trust marriage agrees with you. You look as if your mail were lined with nettles. A different stinging, Jaime replied mildly. Sister. Cersei's eyes flicked to Catelyn. Lady Tully, do we still call you Tully? How brave you are, trading ice for gold. Catelyn answered, voice level. I have traded nothing. The North remains my heart, gold or no. O heart. How quaint. Cersei sipped wine. A woman's heart is often her downfall. Sometimes her salvation, Catelyn countered. Cersei's smile widened, but her stare cooled. We shall see. Robert barked laughter. Oblivious or uncaring of tension drifting like smoke. He beckoned Jaime to recount some youthful escapade. Jaime obliged, weaving a tale of hunting boar in the Kingswood, though his tone lacked former luster. Catelyn took her seat among ladies of the court. She found Sansa's absence a fresh ache, her eldest daughter fostered by Queen Cersei still, though rumors whispered she might soon wed Joffrey despite politics shifting. Throughout the meal, Littlefinger floated near, trading pleasantries. When dessert of apple tarts arrived, he sidled beside Catelyn. A pleasure to see you radiant, my lady. Marriage becomes you. Denan. Radiance and I are strangers lately, she answered. Strangers may yet become allies. He dabbed crumbs from lips. The royal progress, an ambitious endeavor. Might I assist with arrangements? Caravans need funding, tolls need easing, small folk need entertaining. For a modest percentage, I could conjure miracles. A miracle? Persuade Lord Tywin to travel more slowly. Convince the realm we ride in genuine harmony. She kept her tone mild. Ah, harmony, he smiled. The sweetest notes often conceal disharmony in lower registers. I could compose a song that soothes Tywin's ear, if given the key. And what is the key? Offer him a promise of Ironbank backing for his latest mine venture. Lord Tywin's coin flows, yet he craves external confidence. A discreet missive from Braavos might gain him pause. You claim you can procure such missives? I claim I can do anything where gold is involved. Catelyn studied his sly expression, assessing risk. The realm cannot afford your price, Lord Baelish, nor can I. Think of it not as price, but investment. He tapped her goblet. We shall speak later, perhaps when wisdom of night softens caution. He drifted away. Catelyn exhaled slowly. Jaime returned, looking harried. Robert means to ride boar at dawn. Barristan protests, but the king's blood is thick with old memories. Boar ended King Viserys I, she said. Let us hope Robert carries more skill or fortune, or listens to counsel. She glanced toward Robert, who guzzled wine, cheeks flushed. But counsel wavers in wine's tide. Jaime offered his arm. Come. We should retire early. Nimehin. They left before the final course, weaving through torchlit corridors. At their chamber door, they found Sir Preston again on duty. Jaime dismissed him kindly, saying no guard was needed inside. The knight bowed and remained in the hall. Within, braziers glowed. The bedding had been changed, fresh linen smelling of lavender. Jaime poured water into a basin and washed his face. She removed her cloak and folded it across a chair. He dried his hands. Lady Catelyn, if I am to play husband, I must learn your mind. What comforts you? What cannot be tolerated? Then she considered. Bruised fruit distresses me. A silly childhood fancy, and I do not abide mockery of the northern gods. I can avoid both. He retrieved a mulled wine from sideboard, offered 1 cup to her. They drank in measured silence. Tell me of River Run, he said. So she did. Of leaping trout gleaming in summer sun, of stone walls warm to ochre dusk, of blackfish teaching her to cast line for river perch. She spoke of her mother's laughter, of Edmure's boyish boasts, of Lysa's sweet, singing voice before sorrow quieted it. Jaime listened, eyes shadowed with something like longing. When she finished, he said, I once dreamed of living nowhere and everywhere. A knight of the King's Guard can own no land, bear no children. Yet I fancied, after the war, perhaps Robert would grant me leave to wander. Instead, I guard him from his regrets. Their gazes held. We are both prisoners, Catelyn whispered. Prisoners sometimes share escape. She set down her cup. Sleep now. The dawn will come for us both. She crossed into the bedchamber and shut the door softly. Jaime stretched on the settee again, unsheathing a dagger to toy with the blade edge, the firelight dancing along steel. Thoughts kept him wakeful. In the small hours he rose, quiet as a cat, and moved to the window. Beyond, the Red Keep's outer Bailey lamps cast islands of gold on black flagstones. Foot patrols changed watch. A lone figure slipped across the courtyard, cloak hooded. Jaime narrowed eyes. It moved with measured purpose, not a servant's scurry. He tracked its path toward the eastern postern. The guards admitted the stranger. It vanished into night. A spy. A lover? He memorized the gait and height. Valuable later. Sighing, he returned to couch and coaxed thin sleep. Morning cracked with shouts in the yard. Jaime woke to horns signaling the king's hunt. He roused Catelyn. She emerged braided in auburn hair, eyes still clouded by half-dreams. Courtiers assembled in the grand courtyard. Robert astride a massive black stallion bore spear in hand. Renly in emerald-trimmed jerkin, Sir Barristan in full plate, Loras Tyrell in green hand-gold cloak fluttering elegantly. Cersei stood on balcony watching, twin children beside her. Sansa and Arya remained unseen within. Catelyn and Jaime approached. Robert grinned, whining-styled breath puffing white. Come, sir brother, ride with me. A boar does wonders for tempers. Jaime demurred. Forgive me, your grace. Arrangements for the progress require my attention. Allow me to send Sorbalan Swan. Robert shrugged, dismounting momentarily to clasp Catelyn's hand. My queen of peace, wish me fortune. Fortune and a sharp spear, she answered, voice cordial. Robert mounted again. The party thundered across the drawbridge toward Kingswood. Dust swirled. Cersei remained, gaze remote. Jaime escorted Catelyn back within his bells tolled prime. A squire approached, announcing that Maester Pycelle requested Lady Catelyn's presence to discuss ravens arriving from River Run. Her heart jolted. She bid Jaime excuse her. In Pycelle's tower, the air smelled of parchment and herbs. The old maester fussed over scrolls. Lady, he wheezed, your brother Edmure writes, word of your union reaches River Run. He held out the letter. She unrolled it. Edmure's script bore agitation beneath careful strokes. He'd convened lords of the Trident, many outraged by annulment. River Run garrison braced for siege should Lannisters encroach. Hoster Tully's health declined. He requested his daughter return at once if possible. Lines blurred as tears threatened. She folded the letter. "Thank you, Maester." "Have copies gone to the king?" Pycelle shook gray head slowly. "I have not yet. Should I?" He peered, gauging. "Delay," she said, "until I consult King Robert myself." She left before he could argue. In the stairwell she met Arya bounding up 2 steps at a time. Hair unkempt, dirt smudged. "Mother." Arya flung herself forward. Catelyn knelt, swallowing her torrent of emotion as she embraced her daughter fiercely. "Sweetling, I've missed you," she murmured into tangled hair. Arya pulled back, gray eyes shining. "They said you came back but not back. I don't understand. Why did you marry the lion?" Her voice trembled, but anger sparked. "So like Ned." Catelyn smoothed hair. "Because sometimes, to keep war away, we make choices we despise." "Is father angry?" "Father is hurt. He rides home for a time, but he loves you, Arya. Nothing changes that." Arya scowled. "If the queen thinks this stops me learning water dancing, she's wrong." Catelyn managed to smile. "Never stop dancing, but be careful." "I will." Arya hugged again, then darted onward. Watching her vanish filled Catelyn with raw ache. She trudged back to chambers, finding Jaime pacing. "More ravens?" he asked. She handed him Edmure's letter. He read with brow creasing. "Your lord brother prepares spear walls. The riverlands stand between west and north. They would be trampled first. We need them calm." He tapped scroll to palm. "If your father's health fails, succession unsettles holdings. Edmure may act rashly. I must go to River Run." He looked up sharply. "Robert's progress passes there eventually. Eventually may be too late. Hoster may not last moons. My father will not permit a solitary journey. He sees threats behind every tree." Jaime exhaled. "But perhaps a small deputation might ride ahead to prepare the route. For security." She met his gaze. "You would accompany?" "Of course. I'll claim scouting for the king's comfort. Tywin might still refuse." "Let him try." Jaime rolled shoulders. "I need speak with him regardless. Tonight we dine at his apartments." That evening, they attended a private supper in Tywin Solar. Only Kevan, Cersei, and 2 cousins present. The room smelled of cedar and polished brass. Tywin rose as they entered, expression unreadable. "Father," Jaime said, "Lady Catelyn and I propose to ride west ahead of the progress. Assess roads and supplies." Tywin poured wine into crystal cups. "Imprudent. The king should keep his new emblem close until trust breeds loyalty." Catelyn held Tywin's gaze. "Your grace's progress crawls with pomp. A smaller party slips easier through lands where winter stores shrink." "No." Tywin regarded her as if weighing coin. "You forget I rose higher than pomp long before you were born. My coffers can feed half the realm. Roads will be cleared." He turned to Jaime. "You will stay with the king." Jaime set cup down. "A king's guard's oath is to protect the king. Riding ahead protects him more than trailing at heels." Tywin's eyes hardened. "Your oath is also to obey your king's command. Robert commanded you in charge of vanguard and rear guard, not absent." His voice cooled further. "Do not test me, boy." A pulse leapt in Jaime's jaw. "I am no boy." "Then, act not like one." Tywin faced Catelyn. "My lady, your concerns are noted. I shall dispatch Sir Adam Marbrand with 1,000 men to precede the progress. You will remain." Cersei smirked. "There, brother. Father solves all." Catelyn dipped head in polite thanks, though frustration boiled within. Jaime's hand curled on table edge. Kevan coughed gently. "Sir Adam is capable. Perhaps Lady Catelyn might compose letters to lords en route, forestalling unrest." Tywin waved assent. "See them delivered before dawn." He dismissed them by turning to parchment stacks. Outside, Jaime exhaled a curse. "My father shackles us with velvet chains." "Chains may be slipped unseen," Catelyn murmured. "The key lies now with Adam Marbrand. I trust his sword, but his tongue wags for my father. Nyosimda. Then we must plant seeds Marbrand will carry unwittingly. They spent half the night composing letters. Catelyn's graceful script, soothing but firm, reassuring Lords Tully, Blackwood, Mallister and Frey that the Union signaled prosperity. A guarantee of trade routes, a promise of river toll reduction, peace for harvests. Jaime added pledges of Lannister timber for river bridges, silver for rebuilding war-scarred villages along the Sunset Road. They sealed each letter with lion and trout together. Before dawn they brought the bundle to the royal courier office. Sir Adam, yawning, accepted them. I'll see them delivered. He eyed Jaime. Anything else? Just this, Jaime said. Inform my father each house that welcomes us will receive double grain allotment from Lannisport. Adam's brows rose, but he nodded. As he strode away, Jaime murmured, a lie or incentive, depending whether father keeps it. Either way, houses may hesitate before lifting spears, Catelyn said. Later that day horns blared. Robert's hunting party returned. Horses clattered in through the gate. Robert's face shone, a fresh cut on cheek, laughter booming. He brandished a boar's head spiked on his spear. Fought like the very storm god, he proclaimed. Men cheered. Yet Sir Barristan's eyes betrayed relief more than exultation. In the courtyard, Catelyn watched Robert dismount. He called for ale. Cersei descended stair to greet him. He swept her into muddy embrace to her visible irritation. Jaime leaned near Catelyn. His luck holds, for now. Evening brought a storm. Thunder rolled over Blackwater as wind lashed rain against arrow slits. In the gloom, Catelyn sat near a brazier stitching a glove torn on journey south. Jaime entered, raindrops on cloak, Dada. Adam departs at dawn with 200 outriders, he said. Father paired his force. Less than promised, but enough to carry word. She nodded thread. Did you glean where father intends to march come winter? Not yet. He plays deep game. Jaime removed wet cloak, revealing tunic clinging damply. Despite tension, she noticed lean sinew, knight's body still. He caught her gaze, a flicker of awareness, but merely reached for towel. Wind howled. Lightning flared, revealing his profile. Strong nose, hair clinging. Memory of Ned in similar storm urged tears, but she inhaled slow, steady. Jaime poured wine and offered cup. They sat as flames guttered. I spoke with Lord Commander Barristan, he said. His senses rot within the guard. Some brothers question our union. Oathbreakers may show themselves if father pushes harder. Could Barristan be ally? He honors vow to king above houses. Perhaps we show him this marriage preserves that vow. Rain softened to patter. In lull, Jaime asked quietly, Does it wound you to share roof with me? Catelyn considered. You are not the monster I believed, but a gulf stands between knowing and forgiving. I do not ask forgiveness. He stared into cup, only understanding that each of us is trapped by choices we once thought ours alone. Lightning flickered. She answered, I understand that all too well. Sleep came easier that night, though dreams troubled her. She stood upon icy lake, the surface cracking beneath weight of crown wrought of antlers and swords. Jaime reached to pull her back, yet his hands became golden chains. She woke before falling, heart pounding. At break of day, courtiers assembled to see Adam Marbrand depart. Tywin bestowed last instructions, his gaze glinting. Adam bowed, leading column through dripping gate into pale dawn. Catelyn slipped letters to a squire from River Run disguised among baggage. Each letter bore secret second fold containing coded appeal. Hold your blades, winter waits. The squire promised to deliver them to River Run's maester. 2 mornings later, word reached the Red Keep of skirmish near Stonehenge. Free riders in Lannister crimson clashed with Blackwood scouts. Casualties, 4 dead, 2 captured. Tywin summoned commanders, blaming banditry. Catelyn suspected provocation engineered to test Edmure's temper. She confronted Jaime in Armory Courtyard. Your father provokes war by proxy. He must be stopped. Jaime's jaw clenched. I will speak with him. She watched him stride into Tower of the Hand where Tywin lodged. Hours passed. Dusk bled red, matching her dread. At last, Jaime emerged, face pale, lip split. She hurried to him. "What happened?" "He disowned me," Jaime said, voice hollow. "Said if I refuse his strategy I cease being his heir." "Oh, Jaime." He stared at his gauntleted hands. "I told him I would not sanction raids on Tully lands. He struck me. It seems I remain a boy after all." He managed laugh devoid of mirth. "So be it. Let him name Tyrion heir, however impossible. I will find my own loyalty." She touched his wrist. Words failed. His green eyes shone with unshed rage. "I warned him," he said. "But he forgets a sword's edge can turn." Days blurred. Plans for progress advanced. Wagons laden with tents, provisions, barrels of wine. Robert postponed departure another week, citing fine weather for hunts. Cersei resented delay. Renly coaxed bank loans to fund the spectacle. Varys arranged minstrels. One evening, Renly requested meeting with Catelyn in a secluded garden. He arrived wearing cloak embroidered with golden sunburst of House Baratheon. "My lady," he greeted, "I may have tidings to advance our shared deficit of hope." He explained. Many Stormlords grumbled at Lannister ascendancy. Renly fostered quiet network ready to counterbalance Tywin. If Lady Catelyn could guarantee Riverland's neutrality, Renly might unite Reach and Stormlands under his banner to deter Western aggression. "Your banner alone?" she asked, recognizing ambition. He smiled shyly. "Robert grows tired. The realm must not falter." Catelyn weighed. An alliance with Renly risked fracturing Baratheon House, yet might pin Tywin between Antler and Direwolf. "I will consider," she said, "but I cannot pledge my brother's spears without his voice." "Then seek his voice quickly," Renly said. That night she penned another letter, this one to Edmure, urging patience, revealing piece of Renly's overture. She hid it inside a sewing kit, destined for Riverrun lady's maid, traveling with the progress. Meanwhile, Ned's absence lengthened to fortnight. Ravens from White Harbor reported his passage north. Robb's army mustered near Mokalan, but remained within northern borders. Word reached that Theon Greyjoy rode with him, a subtle message to Balon. Robb's letters to his mother were cautious, loyal, insistent. He had no desire for conflict, yet would defend the pack. On 15th day after Boar Hunt, Kingsguard horns blared midday. A rider approached with Lannister banners crimson over gold. Dust-streaked horse and man. Jaime and Catelyn joined Tywin in Outer Ward as messenger dismounted and knelt. "My lord," he gasped. Stone Mill burned. Blackwood men retaliated. Lord Tito's Blackwood rides with 2,000 to Crossroads. Riverrun banners gather. Tywin's composure remained, but a flicker of satisfaction ghosted across. "Send word to Sir Adam. Hold ground. Tell him reinforcements march." He turned to Jaime. "Your vanguard rides upon the morrow." Jaime squared shoulders. "A Kingsguard rides at King's side. Robert will follow in due course. You will escort your lady to Riverrun, under protection, so her presence calms river lords." Catelyn sensed trap. Sending them west could isolate Riverrun, justify more troops. She opened mouth. Jaime spoke first. "We will ride, but my command answers to the king, not you." Tywin inclined head a fraction. "As you wish. Your orders will bear Robert's seal before nightfall." After messenger withdrew, Jaime said quietly, "Be wary. My father moves pieces unseen, but perhaps fate grants our travel at last." Memawadosanos. Catelyn swallowed. "We must keep pace with truth, not his lies." Preparations consumed afternoon. 50 knights of the Kingsguard's outer cadres, 100 archers, supply wagons. Jaime donned full plate, traced with silver lions, gifts from Cersei long ago. She wore traveling dress of deep blue, needlework trout, leaping silver thread. At dawn they assembled at Gate of the Gods. Robert came to see them off, looking haggard but jovial. He clasped Jaime's forearm and kissed Catelyn's cheek. "Bring back calm, lady. Bring back my damn patience." Then, Cersei watched aloof, emeralds glinting. "A safe journey," she intoned. They rode out, hooves clanging over cobbles, banners snapping in crisp autumn air. The city fell behind, open fields unfurled, stubbled from recent harvest. Jaime kept pace beside Catelyn at column's head. Behind, supply wagons creaked. After half a day's ride, they reached the King's Road's first league marker. Jaime ordered halt and scouted Vantage Hill. A lone figure awaited, hooded girl on arrow chestnut horse. Jaime's hand brushed sword, but Catelyn gasped. "Arya!" Arya pushed Hood back, wild grin flashing. "I'm coming too." Jaime groaned. Catelyn dismounted hurriedly. "Sweetling, you cannot." "I can," Arya insisted, producing parchment sealed with the stag. "Father wrote. He says I may ride to Winterfell if Sir Jaime agrees." She thrust letter. Jaime broke seal. Ned's hand indeed, cautious yet clear. "If my daughter finds the road safer than the court, do not hinder her. Guard her, Kingslayer. My faith in you will be your redemption." Jaime's expression softened. "The wolf pup is your charge now," Catelyn told him. He nodded. "So it seems." "Very well, Lady Stark Jr., fallen behind second wagon." "Dean." Arya perched in saddle grinning. Catelyn's heart brimmed equal parts fear and pride. They resumed journey, roads flanked by yellowing birch groves. Late afternoon, Jacques, a scout, returned reporting village ahead offering ale and stabling. They entered Turnipstone near sunset. Small folk gawked, but offered bread. Jaime arranged billets in barn lofts. At tavern he and Catelyn sat with Arya between, sharing bowl of rabbit stew. "Where's Needle?" Jaime asked. Arya stiffened, then relaxed. "Hidden safe. One day, you'll show me your water dancing." Arya's eyes lit. "Could a king's guard spar with me? If you can touch me with that skinny blade, I'll knight your shadow." He chuckled. Catelyn marveled. Her daughter forging camaraderie with man once deemed villain. Yet war often scrambled stories. That night, she dreamt of river-run gates flung wide, of Edmure embracing her, of Tywin's troops milling in yard beneath peace banners. She woke hopeful, yet wary. Second day, rode smooth until mid-afternoon, when dust plume ahead resolved into riders bearing twin tower sigils. House Frey, led by Sir Stevron, gaunt and gray-haired. He reigned before Jaime. "Well met, sir. My father bids welcome at the Twins should your party require lodging." Jaime inclined head. "Generous. We make for River Run directly, but may pass by on return." Stevron's gaze settled on Arya. Lord Walder inquired after Stark girls. "He would be honored to host one. Foster arrangements secure alliances." Catelyn stiffened. "Lady Arya remains with me." "As you wish," Stevron said blandly. "Safe roads." They rode off. Jaime muttered. "Frey hospitality often strings cords unseen." They pushed beyond till dusk, camping in meadow near stream. Knights erected pavilion for Catelyn. Jaime slept outside beneath canvased. Arya insisted on helping watch. Night was peaceful. Third day emerged fog-bound. Jaime deployed outridders. By noon they encountered smoldering ruin. Farmstead charred, livestock slain. Tracks indicated dozen horsemen. No sigils. Catelyn knelt beside scorched cradle, grief hollowing chest. "Bandits?" Arya asked. "Or men wearing no colors to hide whose orders they follow," Jaime said. "My father denies such acts, but..." He shook head. "We bury dead." They worked till eve. 6 bodies interred. Catelyn prayed. Arya murmured northern words. Jaime ordered extra scouts. That night Jaime approached Catelyn near campfire. "If you doubt my ability to keep your daughter safe, say so." "I have seen your care," she answered. "But war cares for none. I will die before harm reaches her." She met his eyes. "I know. That frightens me more. Dying solves nothing." Dimdimchimdal. He looked away to flames. A knight's life rarely solves much. They sat in companionable silence. Morning's travel brought them to Crossroads Inn. Merrill, the innkeep, hailed Jaime by name, offered pies. Over meal, a hooded minstrel strummed in corner. His tune shifted to A Winter Maid's Lament. Words of lost love. Catelyn's throat tightened. Jaime dropped coins on table. They mounted again. By late afternoon, the towers of River Run rose beyond bend of the Red Fork, banners drooping in still air. Jaime signaled halt. "We should announce politely," he said. Catelyn rode ahead, accompanied by 2 trumpeters. Horn blasts echoed. Gate opened. Sir Brynden Tully himself emerged astride gray gelding, armor dented from practice. "Cat!" Blackfish cried, spurring forward. She dismounted as he swung down. They embraced fiercely. "Is this madness truly you?" "It is," she whispered. His gaze flicked to Jaime. "You bring lion within gates?" "Under truce," she said. "Peace is our charge." Bryndon's eyes narrowed, but he nodded. "Enter then." But no tension coils tight here. Edmure's patience thins. He glanced at Arya. "Little wolf too? Good. Your mother needs her pack." "Nah." They crossed drawbridge. Portcullis rattled closed behind. Inside, men hustled, drilling on courtyards. River Run gearing for war. Edmure hurried from keep entrance, reddish beard bristling, eyes bloodshot. He grasped Catelyn's hands. "Sister, thank the 7. I feared you hostage." "I am guest," she said. "Guest, seeking sense." Edmure glowered at Jaime. "We'll see about sense after parley." Jaime bowed formally. "Lord Edmure, I come under peace bannerman, as husband to your sister. I swore to protect the Riverlands from needless bloodshed." "Mammon's." "Swore," Edmure repeated dryly. "I know Lannister oaths. I know Tully honor." Jaime replied evenly. "Perhaps we meet halfway." Edmure eyed him but motioned them inside. River Run's great hall smelled of straw and roasting pork. Hoster Tully lay on dais and chair wheeled by Master. His once broad shoulders sagged. He smiled weakly at Catelyn. Tears blurred her sight. She knelt, kissed his weathered hand. "My cat," he murmured, breath rattling. "You come home despite storms." "I bring hope of peace, father." He nodded but coughed violently. Maester Vyman stepped forward to tend. Brynden guided Catelyn aside as eddy of emotion rippled. Jaime waited respectfully. Edmure gestured him forward. "Speak your peace, lion." Jaime lifted his helm. "Lord Tully, I pledge as son by law that House Lannister will not march upon your lands if you refrain from attacking ours. Grain, timber, and coin shall flow to repair this realm. I bring letters bearing my father's seal." He handed scroll. Edmure broke wax, scanned. Brow furrowed. "Timber and coin, if river tolls halved, and trade privileges extended. My father is ill, sir. He cannot parse fine print." Jaime inclined head. "Let his blackfish and you parse. The offer stands." Catelyn added, "Tywin negotiates from fear of Robb's rising host. Peace benefits all." Brynden snorted. "Tywin's peace hides blade. Yet perhaps we blunt it with caution." Edmure signaled guards. "Prepare guest quarters. We speak further at morrow's council." He glanced at Arya with faint smile. "Your room awaits, little wolf." That night Catelyn sat beside her father's pallet. Moonlight silvered his frail face. He whispered, "Remember the words, daughter. Family, duty, honor, you protect family first?" She squeezed his hand, tears falling. In adjacent chamber, Jaime removed armor. He stared at painted fish across wall. Thinking of father's slap, of blade he once thrust through Mad King's back. Could he kill Tywin, if needed? He feared answer. A knock. "Brynden?" Jaime invited him. Blackfish strode in, closing door firmly. "I fought beside Lannisters at the Bells," he said. "Yet my nephew lies awake, counting dead at Stonehenge." "Speak truly, sir. Will more dead come?" "Lemon." Jaime met the old knight's hard gaze. "Not by my wish. Wish is air. Action is steel. You have chance now, here, to show which you wield." Jaime considered. "Help me mediate. Together we can present terms king must accept." Brynden folded arms. "Terms?" Riverland's independence for 10 years, no taxes to crown. The West buys passage at fair rate. The North and West sign non-aggression. In return, Robb withdraws host. Tywin cedes disputed castles along Tumblestone. Blackfish whistled softly. Tywin will bite iron. Not if realm stands against him. Robert wearies of war talk. Renly eyes thrown. Varys longs for quiet webs. The moment is malleable. Brynden peered, cynical but intrigued. Write it. Tomorrow council may weigh. Jaime nodded. Across castle, Catelyn overheard Maester telling Edmure. Scouts sighted Lannister column near Pink Maiden. She exhaled slow. The clock ticked. When dawn lit Trout banners pink, Riverrun's lords assembled in Solar. Jaime presented written proposal. Edmure read aloud. Hall buzzing. Lords Blackwood and Bracken argued. Piper and Went conferred. Commotion interrupted. A rider dashed in, dust-cloaked, bearing Stark direwolf sigil. He knelt, breath heaving. Robb Stark camps at the Twins, he cried. He seeks Mother's counsel before marching south. Catelyn's heart soared and sank at once. Brynden gripped pommel. Jaime exhaled. The pack gathers. Edmure's gaze sharpened. Then we decide before swords unsheath. He surveyed Hall. Who speaks for peace? Voices rose. Some in favor, others skeptic. Catelyn stepped forward. I speak. War will leave these halls, stone and memory. Peace may yet give children songs. Nancy, Brynden raised voice. I stand with my niece. Lord Stafford Piper joined. Sir Mark Vance, Lady Smallwood Dot. Yet Lord Jonas Bracken barked. Lannister Gold buys sweet words. I say we ride. My sons yearn for lance practice. Tempers frayed until Edmure pounded table. Silence. He turned to Jaime. If your father approaches Pink Maiden, he threatens my vassal. Order him back and the river lords may yield. Jaime breathed. I will send Raven now. He penned swift missive in bold strokes. For every mile you advance, 2 houses will rise against you. Turn back or lose your son. Jaime. He sealed with personal ring. The messenger sped. Day wore into heated debate. Arya scaled walls with Riverrun squires, watchful but free. Catelyn visited her father. He slept deep. As sun dipped, horns blew from towers, banner on horizon, direwolf over gray field. Robb Stark rode at head of 5,000, Theon Greyjoy at side. Jaime strode to battlements with Catelyn. She saw her son, tall, reedy brown hair whipping, eyes fierce yet uncertain. Tears welled. Edmure sent envoy. Gates opened slowly. Robb entered with guard, reining in by fish fountain. He swung down, clasped mother in crushing embrace. You live, he whispered. And you, she answered, stroking his hair. He faced Jaime. Tension crackled. Kingslayer, Robb greeted. Lord Stark, Jaime returned. Robb's hand found Swordwolf's tooth. I owe you my brother's legs. Catelyn stepped between. Hold, Robb, Jaime said. My debt beyond payment. Yet I serve your mother now, and realm. Robb's eyes darted to her. Explain. Inside hall, they convened anew. Robb introducing Master Galbart Glover and Sir Helman Tallheart. Catelyn recounted events. Jaime outlined proposal. Robb listened, jaw clenched. At finish he said, if Tywin values you so little, why should we value your word? Because Tywin values victory, Jaime replied. My word threatens his victory. Without me, he cannot claim moral cloak. He removed sword, laid it across table. Hold me hostage till he yields. Gasps rippled. Catelyn's breath stopped. Jaime met her gaze, soft smile. Peace demands cost. Robb folded arms. A bold gesture. Yet father always taught me men can break as easy as words. Are you prepared for dungeon? If dungeon spares lives. Edmure stroked beard. Brynden's eyes shone approving. Lords murmured. Robb nodded. Very well. You remain guest of honor, under guard. Jaime bowed. Later, in her chamber, Catelyn confronted him. You risk everything. I already lost father's love. What remains to risk? He touched bandaged split lip. Perhaps ransom buys quiet. This may end with your head on spike. Then see it does not. He smiled faintly. I trust your skill more than mine at politics. She gripped his hand. You trust me, after all I accused? I trust the woman who crossed kingdoms to protect her children. That woman will not waste my sacrifice. Tears welled. She pressed his hand to cheek. I will not. Down corridor Arya practiced thrusts with wooden sword. Shouting counts taught by Syrio. Robb strategized with river lords. Night fell. At Pink Maiden, Tywin received Raven at dawn. He crushed Seal, reading Jaime's ultimatum. His jaw tightened. Kevin watched anxiously. Prepare second missive to Robert, Tywin ordered. Inform him Northmen hold my son against laws of gods and men. And march? Kevin asked. Tywin's eyes burned. No. Wah. We dig in. Wolves howl now. Lions wait. Hunger will drive them to table. Nah. Back in River Run, Ravens arrived with Tywin's reply. No movement. Jaime remained captive. Catelyn knew stalemate fragile. She formed council. Robb, Brynden, Edmure, Lords Mallister and Blackwood. Renly's envoys arriving with secret letter promising 5,000 Stormlords should peace terms align. Negotiations sprawled over days. Grain shipments from west began under escort, Tywin showing good faith. Robb withdrew host 2 leagues from Twins to Winter Camp. In King's Landing, Robert raged at news. Renly counseled calm. Varys whispered. Progress postponed again. City murmured of weak king. Cersei fumed. Littlefinger speculated fortunes. The realm held breath. In River Run's quiet dusk, Catelyn visited Jaime's tower room. Comfortable yet barred. He stood by window. Any word? She smiled softly. We inch closer. Lords agree to sign truce. All awaits Robert's seal. Then send Raven to him. Already done. He exhaled. Sometimes chains birth freedom. Sometimes. She stepped nearer. When this ends, if peace holds, what life will you claim? He looked thoughtful. Guard the king, perhaps. Or ride far. Seek a quiet coast where no one chants Kingslayer. He met her gaze. And you? I will return to Winterfell, if Ned will have me. We must mend. Jaime nodded slowly. That is right. Children need their mother. He hesitated. I value the days we shared. Strange, but true. As do I. She whispered. He reached, almost touched her cheek, but stopped. She caught his hand. Squeezed. Friends then. Friends. Footsteps echoed. Robb arrived, smiling. Maester brings good tidings. Robert agreed to negotiate binding peace council in Harrenhal within Moonturn. We ride soon. Namjo. Catelyn exhaled. Jaime smiled. Beyond walls, the rivers sang with autumn swell. Stars pricked velvet sky. Indifferent yet eternal. Peace still fragile, but alive. Thread of silver drawn through night's loom, guided by hands once sworn enemies. Genni. Ah. Wind swept across the battlements of River Run with a lingering whisper of winter, carrying the scent of distant snows from the mountains of the moon. The moon itself, swollen, pale, and rimmed in frost, hovered just above the treetops of the Red Fork Valley, casting barred silver shadows across the castle yards. In the keep's highest solar, a dozen candles burned low around a long oaken table, where lords and captains hunched in earnest argument. Quills scratched, tankards steamed, and the hush of strategizing men filled every corner of the wide chamber. Catelyn Tully stood at the western window, her hands clasped behind her back, eyes fixed on the moonlit river where it curled beneath the walls like a polished blade. For 3 nights, negotiations had dragged on amid equal measures of hope and dread. Small victories, agreements on hostages, grain levies, trade concessions, were balanced against simmering distrust. Jaime's decision to remain a captive guest tethered Lannister pride to Tully mercy, but Tywin's vast host waited only 2 days' march south of Pink Maiden. A single misstep could send his banners billowing northward again. Behind her, Robb's voice rose in a measured but unyielding cadence. If we ride for Harrenhal, it must be beneath banners of neutrality. The Riverlands cannot appear subordinate to the north. Demon, Lord Jason Mallister replied, weary but firm. Nor can we gallop at your flank like wayward colts, my lord. Appearances matter. The Crownlands will watch every flutter of silk. Blackfish snorted. Let the Crownlands watch. Their eyes grew dull from staring at their own spits. Catelyn turned as the candles guttered in an errant draught. Across the table, Sabryndon met her gaze and offered a small, battered smile. She inclined her head, feeling gratitude warmer than any hearth. Her uncle's presence, wry, uncompromising, anchored her when doubt threatened. From the rear of the chamber, Maester Vyman cleared his throat, lifting a raven feather quill. My lords, the third clause remains. Confirmation of safe passage for Lord Jaime to attend the Peace Council once summoned. Lord Tywin insists his son travel under guard sworn solely to the Lion. Edmure bristled. The Riverlands will not play host to Lannister vassals marching soldiers through our villages. He can have 5 of his men, no more. Robb shared a look with Catelyn, unspoken accord, and leaned forward. Then let Tywin choose one knight of unimpeachable honor. Sir Kevin, perhaps. The rest shall be of mixed allegiance. Equal numbers north and river. Thus no blade knows where loyalty must turn first. Lord Vance nodded slowly. It is tidy. Even Tywin may swallow that potion if sweetened with praise. Blackfish thumped the table edge. Very well, write it so. Quills scribbled. Catelyn moved to the hearth where Kettle hissed quietly. She ladled thick fish stew into wooden bowls, passing them one by one. Years as Lady of Winterfell had taught her that hungry men argued harder. Fed men found compromise. The simple act, motherly, practical, broke tension long enough for hearts to reset. As she set a bowl before Robb, she murmured, "Rest your eyes, my son. You cannot lead on fumes." Robb smiled, exhaustion paling his freckles. "When peace is signed, mother, I will sleep 10 days. Across the room, the captive Kingslayer sat apart on a low-carved chair near the fire, shackled only by the watchful eyes of 4 guards posted discreetly at each corner. His golden hair caught the firelight, burnished to copper, and he appeared to study the play of shadow on the hearthstones. Now and then quips rose to his tongue, but he held them. The night had grown too grave even for wryness. Maester Vyman sanded a final line and blew the parchment dry. "Enough for tonight. My lords, your seals." They affixed wax under flickering flame. Catelyn pressed the trout of Riverrun beside the direwolf. Robb added his, half direwolf, half roaring lion set on a field of cross-hatched lines. The compromise device he had quickly adopted for these fragile talks. The tension of seeing wolf and lion conjoined upon a single seal almost tore her breath. Yet hope demanded harsh payment. At last, the council dispersed. Haggard men stumbled toward sleep. Some found solace in wine. Catelyn lingered, watching the candle ends bleed wax over pewter trays. Jaime rose, stretching cramped limbs. When the guards made to escort him, he lifted a palm. "Allow me a word with the Lady Catelyn if she consents." The nearest guard looked to her. She nodded. Jaime approached, boots soft on reed-strewn floor. "Another inch forward," he said quietly. "But the chasm still looms." "Thank you," she replied, "for surrendering freedom to keep that inch." He shrugged, though weariness sagged his shoulders. "I've begun to wonder if freedom is more than a locked door. Perhaps it is breath warm on cold hands, or knowing your choices count beyond yourself." She studied the former Kingslayer. A man remade day by day before her eyes. "In Harrenhal, you will face your father. Can you withstand his ire without cracking?" Jaime's smile wavered. "If the mortar of my convictions crumbles, remind me of the oath I gave your daughter, that I will die before harm finds her. My father will not kill what he needs, but he may wound. Let's give him reason to hesitate. He bowed slightly and followed the guards into night's hush. Far to the south, in the Queen's solar atop Maegor's holdfast, torches hissed against velvet drapes painted with emerald dragons. Cersei Lannister paced the length of a Dornish carpet, the wine in her goblet sloshing perilously near the rim. Her golden gown clung like liquid metal, but the set of her jaw destroyed any illusion of softness. Across a narrow side table, Lord Petyr Baelish poured himself a measured drop of sweet arbor red, swirling it as though it were some rare elixir of prophecy. "So, he makes himself a prisoner?" Cersei demanded, voice sharp as a blown glass edge. "A prisoner, Petyr. My brother plays at martyr in Riverman halls while father's plans unravel." Littlefinger's smile was a gentle cut. "Plans rarely unravel, my queen. They evolve. Lord Tywin is nothing if not adaptable." "Thean." She threw back the goblet, wiped her lips with a sweep of slender fingers, and tossed it toward the hearth, where it clattered and rolled. "Adaptable? Stalled like a gelding is more apt. And Robert waits on parchment like some cowed scribe, while Renly whispers daydreams of roses and stags on a single crown. How long before the Tyrells slip a dagger of courtesy into my son's throne?" "So many daggers hover," Petyr allowed. "One wonders which will fall first." Cersei turned on him, eyes green flame. "I've no patience for riddles. You promised you could sway Varys to my cause. Yet he flits between camps like a spider in heat. Render. Ah. But I never said the eunuchs would be loyal, only predictable." Petyr leaned forward. "When Varys hungers for secrets, he must obtain them from somewhere." He tapped his chest lightly. "Consider me a garden where such secrets bloom. In exchange, he prunes those that threaten you." Cersei's expression cooled. "I see no pruning. Jaime's captivity, Robb's ascendancy, now a council at Harrenhal. The realm is drifting from Lannister mooring." Littlefinger spread his hands. "Then we must supply an anchor. If your father cannot march without spilling the blood he hopes to claim, perhaps a softer blade will serve. A blade unseen." Her gaze narrowed. "Speak plainly. A peace council in the ruins of Harrenhal." He chuckled, low and pleasant. "Ruins echo with accidents. Stones fall, floors give way, old keeps hide older sins." Cersei folded arms. "You suggest we contrive an accident?" Petyr shrugged. "Fate plays strange games in halls haunted by Harren's pride. If, 7 forbid, the young wolf died there, or Edmure, or even Robb's dear mother." "No," Cersei snapped, surprising even herself with the ferocity of the denial. She paced 2 steps, then frowned. "No, not Catelyn. Jaime has grown attached." Petyr's brow twitched. "How touching." "Leave Lady Stark alive," Cersei commanded, ignoring his tone. "But remove the boy. Remove Robb. And the North loses teeth. Their host dissolves soon after." Littlefinger considered. "I could make inquiries. Harrenhal is vast. A misplaced brazier, a loose stone on the gallery walkway." "Do it," she whispered, quietly, "and leave Tywin unaware until the deed is done." "As you wish, your grace." He inclined his head as though consenting to dance. Yet behind the courteous bow, his eyes measured price and opportunity. By the end of the week, 3 ravens bearing crown seals reached River Run. Maester Vyman read Robert's terse response. The Council of Peace would convene at Harrenhal in 21 days. All principal lords of the realm, North, West, River, Vale, Storm, Reach, Dorne, were summoned with retinues not exceeding 200 men each. Neutral mediator, the High Septon himself, traveling overland from Old Town. Any lord who refused would be declared in rebellion. A hush fell as the scrolls were laid aside. Robb exhaled. "So it begins." Edmure rubbed his temples. "We ride at once. If we arrive early, we secure quarters least likely to collapse on our heads." Blackfish snickered. Harrenhal seldom collapses on those who move lightly. Robb's council broke quickly into bustle. Orders boomed down stone passages. Catelyn found Arya near the kennels feeding gray windscraps. While Robb's direwolf padded restlessly at his mistress' side, Arya explained that Robb's squire had charge of the Great Wolf while her brother attended councils. Grey Wind accepted her ownership with serene dignity. When Catelyn knelt, Grey Wind butted her shoulder. She scratched behind tufted ears, feeling warmth against creeping dread. "Arya," she said softly, "the road ahead is full of lords who would barter a hostage for gold. You must stay close." "I'll keep to shadows," Arya promised, drawing her hood lower. Grey Wind sneezed, as if mocking the notion of shadows hiding wolves. Within 2 days, the column formed beneath Riverrun's banners. 500 river lords and 200 Northmen sworn to escort the delegation. Wagons of grain, barrels of trout smoked for longevity, a Septon's modest litter for Hoster Tully, though the maester warned the journey could shorten his days. The old lord refused to be left behind. Harrenhal lay within the very heart of his dominion. Jaime Lannister rode under light shane at the column's center, guarded by 6 men. 2 from each host, and 2 chosen among his own oath-breaking Kingsguard, who had ridden north in secret. Robb insisted on fairness. Jaime accepted with wry nod. Before departure, Catelyn ventured to the Godswood with her father. Brynden supported Hoster to the weirwood, where crimson leaves rustled like whispering ghosts. Catelyn knelt beside the roots, pressing her palm to cool bark. "Watch over us," she prayed, "and watch over our children." Hoster murmured something, words cracked by pain. She leaned closer and caught. "Your mother would have been proud." Tears blurred her sight. She kissed his brow, tasting salt and fear. Then the horns blew thrice, and the wheels turned. Roads leading east from Riverrun were wide but battered by decades of troop movements. Autumn rains left puddles that mirrored gray skies. The column trudged, mud splattering horse legs. Ravens wheeled overhead, gleaning what scraps might be left by passing kitchens. Amy rode beside Catelyn often, exchanging remarks on saddle sores and politics in equal measure. One morning after breaking camp near Lord Harroway's town, he said, "When I was a squire, I dreamt of owning a chestnut with mane black as sin. Instead, I found myself handed this dappled destrier heavy as an anvil. He carries you swiftly enough. Perhaps." He patted the horse's neck. But nothing moves swiftly when every league might end in treachery. Catelyn laughed shortly. "Welcome to my world." They fell into silence until outriders galloped back, reporting a column riding ahead under the sunburst of House Baratheon. Renly's host neared from the south. Robb ordered a halt near a crossroads inn overgrown by ivy. Soon Renly's banners swelled into view. Bright stags on verdant cloth, and behind them swaying heads of golden roses, Tyrell knights trotting under Renly's favor, though Mace Tyrell himself remained in the reach. Renly rode at the front, astride a sleek dapple, Loras Tyrell at his right, Lady Brienne of Tarth looming behind like a living rampart. He raised a gloved hand and halted before Catelyn's line. "Lady Stark," he called, smiling broad. "Or Lady Lannister, should we say?" His eyes twinkled. "I hear titles shift quicker than seasons." Catelyn rinded forward, forcing a composed smile. "My Lord Renly, it seems the Stormlands answered the crown summons, and bring summer warmth with us," he said lightly, though his gaze flickered across Jaime's chains. Renly dismounted, handed reins to a squire and approached. Robb slid from saddle to meet him mid-road. They clasped forearms, one stag, one wolf, and exchanged courtesies, stiff but polite. That night, 2 camps set fires within arrow's flight yet posted guard in full mail. Catelyn dined in a canvas pavilion shared with Renly's senior knights. The air hummed with delicate testing, lords of storm and river exchanging boasts disguised as compliments. Renly himself coaxed the company toward levity, reciting bawdy recollections of Robert's hunts. Laughter rose, though tension refused to vanish. Later Renly requested private converse with Catelyn and Robb. Jaime stood near the entrance, arms crossed, permitted to remain silent sentinel. Inside Renly's candlelit tent, heavy with rose-scented soaps from Tyrell baggage, the youngest Baratheon poured wine. "The North stands strong," he said, "and the Riverlands hold. Yet if Tywin withdraws under this fragile truce, another wolf may stalk. Stannis." He paused. "My brother sits at Dragonstone, nursing grievances. Should Robert falter or die, Stannis will march with letters of legitimacy. Cersei's children. He let the words hang, eyes calculating. Catelyn's stomach chilled. Are you certain, my lord? Renly swirled wine. Certain enough that I cannot risk Robert's absence from council. We must press him into Harrenhal's chambers, rouse him from wine-soaked ease. He set goblet aside. Yet Stannis may strike at any hour. I ask that the Riverlands and North stand with me if Dragonstone banners show. Robb bristled. My first duty is to end one war before starting another. Renly spread hands. Then let us declare alliance only in defense of the crown's authority. No aggression, merely shield brothers. Catelyn exchanged a look with Robb. She sensed Renly's aim, garner commitments while offering little. Let the Peace Council decide, she said, and let Robert answer charges of succession. We cannot wager soldiers on rumors alone. Nah. Renly inclined his head, gracious in appearance though not in heart. Wise words. He sipped again. To wisdom, then. When the parley concluded, Jaime walked beside Catelyn back to camp. Renly is more dangerous in silk than Robert in mail, he observed. You see the glaze on his smile? Behind it he counts our coffins. Yes, she murmured. And he counts how many will bear his colors once they're filled. Even under heavy cloud, the moon glimmered. Gray wind padded along, hackles raised. Now and again the direwolves' gaze swept the dark, ears twitching. Among all their guardians, Catelyn trusted him most. 3 days out from Harrenhal, the land grew broken. Low hills stitched with thickets, streams choked by rushes. Blackened husks of long-smashed villages dotted the fields like scars that never closed. Old campfires dotted roadside clearings, relics of 100 forgotten wars. The grim sprawl of Harren's Folly rose beyond the horizon. A jagged silhouette, its towers twisted and skeletal against slate skies. Word came that Mace Tyrell marched from Bitterbridge with 1,000 heavy horse. The Eyrie dispatched Sir Lyn Corbray and less than 50 knights. Proof Lady Arryn's health remained poor. No ravens arrived from Sunspear, though tales claimed Prince Doran's envoy would ride with the High Septon's own litter. The realm's wounds bled into a single point of tension. On the final evening before arrival, Robb called council by a small riverside grove. Wagons circled, torches planted in muddy banks. Catelyn, Jaime, Blackfish, Edmure and the rest gathered. Across the water, Renly's camp flamed. Further north, a sliver of torchlight marked arrival of Vale riders. Robb stood tall, youthful face hardened by months of responsibility. The gods grant us mourning in peace, he said. But once within stone, our swords may be muzzled by courtesy. We must rely on vigilance. He turned to Jaime. Your chains come off at the gate. Yet should treachery fly, you will place yourself between it and my mother. Jaime bowed. I swore already. But consider it sworn again. Edmure frowned. If Tywin attempts to slip steel through shadows, we may need hostages of our own. Hostages breed hostages, Catelyn replied. Trust breeds trust, or so we must pretend. Brynden unsheathed his dagger, inspected edge, resheathed. I will station our best scouts upon every walkway. Harrenhal's passageways swallow men whole. No one roams alone. They dispersed to restless sleep. Catelyn lay in her tent, listening to river-lapping reeds, gray wind's occasional growl, and beyond, the howl of a lonely wolf far across black fields. Her dreams swirled. Bran, standing on strong legs atop Winterfell's gatehouse, waving. Sansa dancing in a throne room of spun glass. Arya wrestling Nymeria beneath a canopy of red leaves. Then fire-cracked stone, and a shadowy crown melted in her grasp. She woke before dawn. Mist coiled low along the ground, dampening cloaks and muzzling hoofbeats. Trumpets blew, banners unfurled heavy with moisture. Catelyn's party formed a procession and began their final approach. Harrenhal, when it emerged from fog, was a colossus ruined yet defiant. 5 gargantuan towers loomed like the broken fingers of a dead god. Walls blackened by dragonfire jutted at odd angles. Inner yards yawed open where roofs had long since collapsed. Yet within its ravaged bones, the great hall still stood. Stone vaulting arching overhead, cracked yet solid, like the spine of old kingdoms. Catelyn's breath caught. She remembered Sansa's tales of courtly ladies banqueting in Harrenhal's glory, of knights tilting for maidens. Now only memory and burnt stone remained. The road wound beneath an archway scorched by Balerian's flame centuries ago. Robb ordered Column to halt within the courtyard. Across the paving, another procession arrived. Crimson lions, black stags, golden roses, silver falcons. Crests mingled beneath pallid sun. At the courtyard's center stood King Robert in ermine-trimmed mantle, face puffy from wine but eyes alert. Ser Barristan flanked him in gleaming white plate. Varys lingered near a cracked fountain, hands hidden in lavender sleeves. Littlefinger whispered to Lord Giles. Ser Jorah Mormont, newly come from exile service, formed part of the King's Queensguard contingent at Renly's suggestion. Queen Cersei, resplendent in forest green velvet, barely concealed disdain for the fortress' charred grandeur. Robert spread arms. Lords of this grand realm, welcome, he boomed, though his voice held a rasp. Let these ancient stones witness not another war, but the forging of peace. He glanced skyward. And let the gods keep the rain away while we bargain. One by one, delegations announced themselves. When Catelyn stepped forward at Robb's side, Jaime at her right, a ripple pulsed through the gathering. Cersei's gaze locked on her brother's unshackled wrists, jaw twitching. Tywin, standing tall beside his daughter, betrayed nothing but the faintest flicker of interest. Banners dipped, trumpets blared. Robert ascended cracked steps to a dais temporarily erected beneath the hall's vaulted entrance. The council begins at sunset, he declared. Until then, find quarters, break bread, keep tempers in bridles. My queen commands order, and I command ale. Not blood flow tonight. Laughter, thin but welcome, rippled. Gray wind padded close to Robb, sniffing at Cersei, who recoiled. Barristan gently nudged the direwolf aside while speaking soft words of respect. Jaime watched, expression unreadable. Escorted by Harrenhal's ragged garrison, each party was led through a maze of courtyards and stairways to assigned chambers. Catelyn's delegation received the Widow's Tower, a jagged structure missing half its roof but outfitted with wooden scaffolding and fresh rushes. Maester Vyman ordered tapestries hung to block the worst drafts. Guards stood double watch at the doors. Once installed, Catelyn ventured to Jaime's temporary cell. A modest chamber inside the same tower, door unbarred but watched. He stood at the slit window, staring toward the Kingspire Tower, tallest of the five, its stone fused by ancient dragon flame into glossy ripples. Beautiful, isn't it? He murmured. A monument to hubris. May it remind you of the cost, should peace fail. She replied gently. He half smiled. I am drowned in reminders. He faced her squarely. Cersei will strike if provoked. Can you keep Robb's impatience from baiting her? Robb's patience has grown, but Tywin will prod as surely as she. Then we all play lion taming. Catelyn touched the hilt of her dagger beneath cloak. We play survival. Sunset bled crimson through broken ramparts when the lords convened in Harrenhal's great hall. Iron braziers ringed the edges, their flames dancing atop ancient mosaic floors. A single giant table, fashioned hastily from oak planks laid across salvaged trestles, sprawled beneath the surviving ribs of the high vault. At its head sat Robert, crown crooked, Ser Barristan to his right, Varys and Pycelle flanking either side, Littlefinger lingering behind Robert's chair like a poised scorpion. Benches faced inward so each region's lords could glare directly at old rivals rather than at Robert's impatient scowl. The High Septon, breathing heavily after pilgrimage from Old Town, raised a crystal censer. Perfumed smoke curled. My children, he intoned, voice quavering, let peace be your prayer lest the realm bleed itself to ash. A polite hush followed as he sank into a cushioned seat. Robert rapped a gauntlet on wood. Here stands the crown's offer, he growled. All grievances laid before us, All answers hammered into parchment by dawn 3 days hence. Any lord who draws steel within these walls will find that steel turned upon his line for 7 generations. Do I make myself clear? Melwer. A murmur of assent. Robb rose, fists planted. The North and Riverlands request recognition of self-governance in matters internal. We will pay reduced taxes equal to seasonal surplus, supply men upon royal call only to repel foreign invasion, and hold dominion over northern trade routes. In return, we cease all troop movement south of the Neck. Mace Tyrell objected, mustache bristling. Reduced taxes, while reach harvest feed half your frost-kissed bannermen. Nanir. Ednir shot forward. And whose ships do you use to port that grain north, my lord? Riverrun has rebuilt docks thrice after iron raids. Tywin spoke, soft yet resonant. A crown cannot stand on legs that refuse to kneel. Recognize their autonomy, and you invite a dozen kingdoms. Renly countered, grant measured liberties, and you prevent open revolt. Better a content wolf at the hearth than a starving one at the door. Cersei's laugh sliced the air. Wolves will always hunger. Give them a sheep and they return for the shepherd. And Jaime leaned forward, eyes on his father. Or perhaps trust might transform hunger into stewardship. A hush followed his words. Tywin's gaze smoldered in reply. Discussion rolled like thundercloud. After trade rights came prisoner exchanges. Ednir demanded ransom-free release of all riverlords taken at the Golden Tooth. Tywin insisted on equal courtesy for Lannister knights held at Moat Cailin. Each issue spawned fresh debate. Littlefinger took copious notes, flicking quill like a maestro conjuring dissonance. Varys drifted table to table, diffusing tension with empty platitudes. As candle smoke thickened under rafters, Robert declared the first session adjourned. Wine would be served in side galleries. Scribes would draft summarized proposals for morning review. Groans mingled with relief. Lords retreated in clumps, whispers mounting. Catelyn stepped from the hall, head throbbing. Gray wind awaited just beyond, eyes glowing in torchlight. Arya appeared, grime-smudged cheeks lit with curiosity. Was it horrible? She asked. Horrible and necessary, Catelyn breathed. Down the corridor, Cersei cornered Jaime near an alcove of cracked stone. Catelyn could not hear, but the queen's fingers dug into her brother's arm. Jaime's jaw clenched in silent response. At length Cersei swept away, skirts swishing like blades. Robb approached. Father's raven reached me. He hesitated. He speaks of negotiations with Stannis about Seaworth grain shipments. I can't tell if that's alliance or threat. We must keep our focus. Catelyn gripped his forearm. This council can still give us victory without sword. That night, wind screamed through shattered windows of the Widow's Tower. In Jaime's chamber, a single torch sputtered. He lay awake, studying the cracks in the ceiling stones. Footsteps sounded beyond the door, 2 sets, soft. He sat up, hand sliding to dagger. A key scraped, door inched open. A girl's slight form slipped inside. Area. What? Behind her, a taller figure cloaked in black filled the doorway, steel glinting. Jaime rose. Arya. The figure lunged, blade arcing for the girl. Without thought, Jaime hurled himself forward, knocking Arya aside. Steel met steel as he parried with his dagger. The attacker struck quick, silent, face obscured by mask. Jaime deflected, pivoted, blocked a slash aimed for his throat. The assassin's movements were fluid, almost Bravo C, water dancer grace. Jaime countered with sudden brutal strength, elbow driving into ribs, then wrenched the assassin's wrist until dagger clattered. Guards thundered down the corridor, alerted by Arya's cry. The cloaked assailant whirled, vaulted past Jaime through the door's narrow crack, slamming a guard into the wall. Swords rang. The assailant sprinted down stairwell, scattering soldiers. Jaime snatched a fallen spear, but the figure vanished into darkness. Arya's breath came sharp. She clutched needle, just drawn. Jaime knelt. You're safe. She nodded fiercely. You saved me. Guards crowded, torches bobbing. Robb burst in moments later, clad in half-button jerkin, face thunderous. What happened? Jaime explained swiftly. Rob's gaze hardened. An assassin? In our tower? Nendernemtide. How did they breach guards? Catelyn demanded, arriving behind Rob. Lannister plot. Edmure spat. Jaime snapped. Then why save the girl? Silence fell, broken only by Arya's voice. He saved me, uncle. Rob turned to the captain of guards. Lock down all passages. Double watch. No one enters this wing without my seal. Catelyn pulled Arya close. Your water dancing saved you too, she whispered, feeling her daughter tremble. Throughout the night, torches prowled hallways, boots echoed. Search yielded no killer. At dawn, the news reached Robert, Tywin, Renly. Accusations soared. Cersei feigned outrage. Renly expressed concern. Tywin remained stone. The Second Council convened early. Tension strangled discourse. Robert slammed fist, demanding culprits. No one confessed. The High Septon called for prayer. Pycelle, voice wheezy, droned about blade style. Mirrored steel from Lys, a merchant's dagger perhaps. Littlefinger suggested Celsails camped near God's Eye might harbor brigands willing to try fortune. Jaime declared willingness to stand any interrogation. Catelyn vouched for his heroism. Arya corroborated. Still, suspicion thickened. Rob's trust teetered. Edmure's already frayed nerves sizzled. During midday recess, Catelyn stood upon an inner balcony overlooking the great hall's cracked flagstones. Below, servants collected spilt wine. She felt someone at her side. Turning, she found Varys, round face unctuous. A regrettable disturbance, my lady, he purred. An attack on a child stains more than cloaks. Regrettable indeed, she answered. Varys folded plump fingers. One wonders who profits from such terror. Perhaps someone who fears what peace might strip from them. Do you know who? She asked. I gather motes of dust, never storms. His eyes flicked to distant corridor. Yet whispers speak of an order dispatched from King's Landing, marked by a sigil none will claim. A coin stamped with a mockingbird. A shiver coursed through her. Littlefinger. She thanked Varys and hastened away, mind racing. She found Rob near the kennels. Be wary of Lord Baelish, she whispered. He may hold more knives than smiles. Rob's jaw tightened. I'll keep distance. That evening, as twilight crimsoned, the council resumed. Culprits unnamed, they pressed on. Trade clauses, prisoner releases, border guarantees. One by one, decisions settled over reluctant signatures. When Tywin finally lifted his quill, signing concession to halve tolls on the tumblestone, a collective breath hushed the hall. 3 nights passed. No further attempt marred proceedings. Dorne's envoy arrived, Prince Oberyn himself. Eyes like polished copper, offering olive branch. Dornish spears would guarantee the peace terms if Myrcella were betrothed to Trystane. Cersei balked. Robert accepted, weary of conflict. The realm's tapestry rewove itself, line by line. On the final dawn, scribes presented 2 scrolls. The Pact of Harrenhal, 8 seals each, binding for 15 years or until mutual amendment. Autonomy, trade equity, shared defense, hostage exchange, and a joint council of lords set to meet triennially. Robert signed last, imprinting Stag's head heavy in wax, then drained a horn of ale. Cheers erupted. Some sear, others hollow. Yet steel remained sheathed. That alone felt miracle enough. Outside, gray clouds lifted to reveal a sliver of pale blue. Catelyn stood beside Jaime on the dais steps, watching banners ripple in newborn breeze. Rob approached, smiled wanly. It is done, he said, incredulous. Done, she echoed, feeling weight peel from shoulders, though dread lingered. Jaime glanced at approaching Lannister retinue. My escort returns me to father's side. We ride at noon. Catelyn nodded, throat thick. Then I return north. He clasped her forearm. Soldiers farewell, yet eyes softened. Should our paths cross again, may it be on roads neither stained nor barred. She squeezed his wrist. Travel safe. Behind them, Arya pouted. "You can still spar before you go, Kingslayer." Jaime laughed. "I'd break half your bones." "I'd bite your leg," she declared. He grinned. "Someday, little wolf, you will." He bowed mock gallant, then turned toward crimson cloaks of his guard. Cersei intercepted, green eyes sparking. She hissed words Catelyn could not hear. Jaime answered calmly, mounting his destrier. Tywin observed from carriage step, unreadable. At last he inclined his head, a gesture of reluctant concession, and carriage doors closed. Trumpets sang. The lion banners rolled out the gate. Renly's roses followed soon after, Tyrell trumpets echoing. Prince Oberyn departed south, with retinue of sand-colored spears. Vale riders wheeled east on goat paths. The Storm King's envoy remained to finalize marriage contracts. River Run and North hosts mustered on muddy field outside Harrenhal. Robb conferred final words with Robert, who clasped the young lord's shoulder, half fatherly, half regretful. The king looked older than his 30-odd years, belly sagging beneath gilded jerkin, yet his eyes held flint again. Perhaps he sensed his kingdom had tiptoed across a chasm that might yawn once more should he falter. As Northmen filed through breached Barbican, snowflakes drifted. First of the season carried south early. Men raised faces to flurry, some laughing, others shivering. Catelyn watched white specks settle on gray wind's black fur. She inhaled cold air tinged with distant smoke. Edmure rode at her side. "Do you trust paper, Cat?" "I trust the folk who must live under that paper," she answered. "And I trust our will to guard them." Robb signaled the march. Catelyn spurred her mare, following the steady clop of hooves northward. Behind, Harrenhal faded, dwarfed by its own legend. Yet, through charred stone and treachery, peace had sprouted, frail as frost, but alive. On the ridge, she looked back once. Golden evening rays pierced clouds, lighting the ruin with ruinous splendor. She thought of Jaime somewhere in the western hills, of Ned awaiting her in Winterfell, of Arya chattering behind, of Sansa courting caution in King's Landing. The skein of her life unraveled, then rewove, not neatly, but enough. She turned her horse north and rode beneath falling snow that melted in her hair like cold, forgiving tears. Back, ha! Snow fell upon the King's Road like sifted pearl dust, swirling under the hoofbeats of the long northern column. In the hush before dawn, Catelyn rode at Robb's right hand, her woolen cloak clasped with the trout and wolf brooch that Maester Vyman had fastened only hours earlier. Gray wind loped ahead, paws kicking up starbursts of white, his muzzle tipped to the scent of distant pines. Behind them, banners rippled damply. The direwolf of Stark, the leaping trout of Tully, the white sunburst of House Karstark, the merman of Manderley, the broken wheel of Tallheart. Each standard bore frost at its edges, yet each crested proudly as if defying the quiet mutter of ice-laden clouds. The road narrowed where it curled around a low ridge, and Catelyn slowed to meet the marcher's pace. Edmure rode farther back, encircled by Piper and Vance captains, discussing grain shares for winter. Brynden ranged ahead with scouts, his gray cloak vanishing and reappearing among the black-barked birches like a restless heron. 3 days had passed since the Pact of Harrenhal, and though parchment alone felt fragile armor against Tywin Lannister's iron will, each mile north eased the weight upon Catelyn's chest. Yet she could not loosen her grip on the reins. Harrenhal's shadows trailed them, ghosts of burning towers, whispers of unseen daggers, notes of songs left half-sung in rubble. When she closed her eyes, she still heard the clash of blade against blade as Jaime fought to save Arya. At dusk the column reached Maidenpool, its outer gatehouse flanked by stout watchtowers garlanded in rhyme. Lord Mooton greeted them in the rain-slick courtyard. Lanterns mirrored in puddles around hoofprints. Though his castle's granaries were thin after years of bandit depredation, he pressed wine and barley stew upon Robb's officers, while Catelyn and her father's litter were shown to a chamber overlooking the bay. Small folk peered from shutter slats, their faces chalk pale in the flicker of torches, curious or fearful of the army's passage. Later, after cloaks steamed dry by the hearth, Catelyn found Robb alone atop the battlements, staring toward the slate-colored waters. The boy had grown broad of shoulder, his cheeks newly rough with frost-dark stubble, but the tilt of his head still belonged to the wolf pup, who once chased fireflies in Winterfell's godswood. "You should rest," she said, folding her arms against the cold. Snowflakes drifted sideways in the lantern glow, as if uncertain where to land. "Rest can wait," he answered, voice low. "Every hearth we pass asks if the peace holds. I scarcely know what to promise." She stepped beside him. "One promises nothing but vigilance. Peace is not a gift. It must be made every dawn anew. Now." He nodded, brushing snow from the rampart stone. Father rode again from Winterfell. He surprised the lords of the north by unrolling the pact before them. There was grumbling, but more relief. They will not march so long as grain flows south of the neck. "And Stannis?" Catelyn asked. Robb's jaw stiffened. "Ravens say Dragonstone's levy is mustering ships. No banners declare open war. But Davos Seaworth purchases peppercorn sailcloth, salted cod enough to feed a fleet. Father wonders whose harbor those hulls may darken." "Dean." Catelyn exhaled a long plume of mist. "We cannot fight every flame. But if Stannis tests Robert, the Riverlands must not become his battlefield." Robb drummed fingers on frozen stone. "I sent Galbart Glover north by sea to Bear Island, instructing House Mormont to ready their longboats. If fleets collide, we protect the Bay of Ice first. The fish hooks you taught me, Mother, always secure the narrow waters before the wide." That drew a brief smile. He leaned in, pressing a kiss to her brow. "Sleep now. I will patrol once more, then join the captains." "Din?" She left him to the wind and descended the stair. In her chamber she found Hoster's litter already positioned near the hearth. Her father slept beneath wolfskin. The rasp of his breath matched to the sigh of a draught beneath the shutters. Maester Vyman dozed in a chair, quill fallen across parchment listing heartseed tonics. Catelyn loosened her father's cloak, warmed a mug of sweetened mulberry wine, and set it steaming on the bedside stool for when he woke. Moonlight silvered her travel chest in the corner. She knelt and unlatched the brass hasp, lifting out a folded cloak. Gray wool lined with white silk, embroidered with the direwolf of Stark. Ned had sent it with the last raven, a note pinned to the collar. For the long road home, when her fingers brushed the familiar sigil, a sudden ache welled so fiercely she pressed her face against the cloth. In its weave, she felt the warmth of their marriage bed. The snow-hushed courtyard where Bran once climbed. The crisp tang of cold iron on Winterfell's forging floor. A gentle throat clearing stirred her. Vyman blinked awake, adjusting spectacles. "My lady," he said softly, "Lord Hoster's heartbeat is stronger tonight. The sea air in Maidenpool agrees with him." Catelyn dabbed her eyes, folded the cloak, and returned it. "Sea air agrees with us all." She glanced at her father. "Make certain he drinks when he wakes." She left again, lantern in hand, descending to the castle's guest library in search of maps. But in the narrow stair she nearly collided with Brynden, his scarred cheek shadowed by torch glare. "Planning midnight cartography," he said, arching an eyebrow. "And you?" she returned. The watch picked up a boy with a raven on his sleeve attempting to slip past the outer barbican. The blackfish's eyes sharpened. Scroll bearing Littlefinger's cipher. Her breath caught. "Does Petter send spies after us, or someone else?" "We'll learn when the lad talks. I've no doubt he shall. 7 days in a Riverlands winter makes even sparrows sing." She swallowed. "In Harrenhal, I thought I saw Lord Baelish scribble something as the assassin fled." She shook her head. "Proving it may prove impossible." Blackfish touched her shoulder gently. "Then we keep moving. A snake cannot strike prey already across the river." "Nantier." They parted. Catelyn found no maps before sleep finally claimed her. The march resumed at dawn. By twilight of the 6th day, the towers of the twins emerged from snowy haze, gray as tombstones against an orange-washed sky. Lord Walder Frey greeted their arrival with what courtiers would kindly call enthusiasm, though the Lord of the Crossing's smile creaked like an unoiled portcullis. He shuffled onto the battlement parapet, wrapped in layers of sable and moth-eaten velvet, flanked by a gaggle of heirs, grand heirs, and forgotten betrotheds. Robb raised a gauntleted hand. "Lord Frey, we ride under peace banners bound for Winterfell. We request passage and accommodation for Lord Hoster Tully, gravely ill." Walder Frey's rheumy eyes glittered. "My beloved liege, the king commands us all to virtue these days," he croaked. "For virtue's sake, I shall feed your men and bed your horses, though it will thin my stores. In return, perhaps the young wolf will grace us with 3 nights of dancing and good company." His gaze lingered on Arya, who sat a small roan behind Catelyn. "Perhaps Lady Arya might join my granddaughter Alice in needlepoint." Arya's snort earned a pinch from Catelyn's gloved fingers. Robb nodded stiffly. 3 nights then. We shall strive not to empty your granaries, my lord." Frey's grin widened. "Granaries, no. But perhaps my granddaughter's hearts." He turned away cackling, his brood trailing like ducklings. Inside the great hall of the twins, warmth surged from hearths. Catelyn noted new stonework patching the ceiling. Scaffolding still standing, a constant renovation of ambition. But the long tables groaned with venison, oat bread, dried apples. Frey daughters carried platters, shy smiles flickering at the tall northern lordlings. During the feast, minstrels played a high, fluttering tune. Walder Frey raised a cup. "To the union of lion and trout," he wheezed, "which has spared this gray old man another siege of my gates. Might I remind House Stark and Tully that my doors remain ever open to alliance, should proper prospects arise." His gaze drifted again to Arya and to Robb. Catelyn felt heat mount in her cheeks. Robb managed a courteous nod. Lord Walder leaned to whisper something to his son, Sir Stevron, who coughed politely as if choking on crow's feet. Later that night, with blowing snow obscuring the pitch-dark river, Catelyn stood on the covered walkway linking the 2 towers. Below, torchlight danced on the black waters of the Green Fork, where ice sheets bumped the pilings with dull knocks. Footsteps sounded, and she turned to see Edmure approach holding 2 cups of hot mead. "Drink," he urged. "Frey's bees make potent honey. May keep the chill at bay." She accepted. They leaned upon the parapet. In the wind, Edmure's voice dropped. "I misjudged Jaime Lannister," he admitted. "I'd pictured him only by rumor and by Bran's fall, at Harrenhal, when steel flashed near Arya. He risked more than courtesy." Catelyn tasted the mead, sweet as thawed spring. "He risked what honor he has left," she said. "And perhaps found more." Edmure's brow knit. "Dottie, will Ned trust that?" She stared into white gloom. "I do not yet know." In the North Tower, Arya slept beside a soot-blackened hearth, needle across her knees. Gray wind lay curled against the door. Catelyn brushed hair from the girl's brow, whispering a silent prayer to the old gods and the new Odin. She dreamed of a weirwood again, this time in full winter, boughs heavy with crusted ice. Blood-red leaves rattled like bones, yet from the Heartface's tears spilled not sap but clear water, washing scarlet stains into the snow. When she woke, the hush of early morning pressed against the shutters. An unease sat heavy in her chest. At breakfast, Maester Vyman delivered grim news. Lord Hoster's fever surged overnight. His breathing grew shallow. They moved him near a window to ease air through frail lungs, and Catelyn held his hand as the Maester brewed willow tea thickened with honey. The old lord's eyes fluttered open only briefly, and a ghost of a smile crept across his lined face when he saw his daughter. He tried to speak, perhaps the name of her mother, or a blessing for her children, but the words dissolved on cracked lips. She pressed a damp cloth to his temples, whispering all the reassurances she could forge. That evening, as candles burned low, the twins' courtyard echoed with an unexpected horn blast. A rider on a mud-caked courser crossed the drawbridge waving a tattered brass banner. Beneath the gatehouse, torches their colors showed. Baratheon. Frey men hustled him to Robb's quarters. Catelyn was summoned. The messenger, gaunt and mud-spattered, knelt before Robb, panting. "Bad tidings, my lord. King Robert is grievously wounded." Silence slammed like a dropped portcullis. Robb's jaw slackened. Catelyn felt blood drain from her face. "What happened?" she forced out. "Boar hunt in the Kingswood. The messenger swallowed. Your Gracie's gut was torn. Maesters fight to close the wound, but fever already rises. Queen Cersei commands lords to King's Landing for immediate counsel. Lord Tywin rides south with his army, ostensibly to defend the capital. Catelyn clutched the message scroll, wax seal cracked from hurried travel. Wind howled outside the arrow slits, rattling iron shutters. Robb drew a breath. How many legions does Lord Tywin bring? 8,000 spears at least, my lord. And the city watch swells with sellswords. Catelyn's pulse roared. The fragile threads of the pact stretched to tearing. If Robert died, succession would ignite the realm. Tywin's lions would find excuse to strike. Robb met her eyes. Mother, counsel me. But before she could speak, sergeants burst in from the opposite door, faces ashen. The Lord of the Crossing requests your immediate presence, one stammered. And bring Maester Vyman. Lord Hoster Tully is departing. A wave of grief crashed over her. Robb clasped her shoulders, but she was already moving. In the solar of the North Tower, candles flickered at the edges of Lord Hoster's pallet. His breaths came shallow, rattling, but his gaze found Catelyn. She knelt, stroking wispy salt-gray hair. My sweet father, she murmured. His lips moved. Your mother wants to see River Run, bride. Tears streaked her cheeks. She sees, father. She sees. Rest now. He exhaled a long sigh. Eyes still. The maester bowed his head. Silence settled thicker than snow. Outside, wind battered shutter hinges, as though protesting the old lord's departure. Edmure entered, saw, and fell to his knees. Catelyn caught his head against her chest. Bryndon's face remained stone, but his hand trembled on Hoster's blanket before he turned away. Night passed heavy as lead. Dawn's grayness found the keep draped with black banners. The Freys muttered condolences while already whispering of alliances. And, across leagues to the south, winter crowed with portent in Robert's sick room. Catelyn and Robb climbed the parapet to breathe air unsullied by smoke. Below, the Green Fork flowed sluggish under ice. Snow draped the world, muting all but the thunder of Catelyn's racing thoughts. Father's letter said, Robb began, voice rough, that if Robert fell, Stannis would claim throne. But Joffrey sits in King's Landing with Tywin and Cersei behind him. Stannis holds the king's bloodlines like scripture, Catelyn answered. He will not yield. If Tywin supports Joffrey, war splits wider than before. Robb gazed across snow-lit fields, jaw clenched. What of Renly? Storm and Flower might crown him. Benasht. Renly courts alliances with Tyrell still. But if Robert dies, Tywin will move first. She took his hand. Listen, the pact stands unless someone breaks it. We must hold these river passes. No lion crosses while Hoster lies in cold chamber. Make Walder Frey our ally with more than flattery. Offer marriage, but one that binds our terms. Robb's eyes widened. To a Frey? Mother, I'm betrothed to no one. This is your duty now. A union to keep blood from spattering Hoster's beer. She squeezed his hand. You must choose the bond that prevents thousands of mourning mothers. Robb's shoulders slumped beneath his cloak. Snow gathering on auburn hair. Yet after a moment he straightened, resolve hardening. If this is the price, I shall pay. They returned inside. Walder Frey, summoned to the solar, arrived with 4 daughters. Roslyn, Arwen, Pelena, and fair Walda, hovering between nervous curiosity and despair. Robb spoke simply, offering his hand to Roslyn, the shyest yet kind-eyed. Walder's grin cracked a semblance of paternal pride. The betrothal was set, a single winter moon hence at River Run, after Lord Hoster's burial. That night, Frey musicians played subdued reels. Robb danced once with Roslyn, awkward, respectful, then retired. Arya slipped from the hall soon after, gray wind trailing. Catelyn found her in the moot yard, practicing needle thrusts against a wooden post. Snow eddies spun around the girl like silent audiences. Enough for tonight, she said gently. Come warm your bones. Arya lowered the sword. Grandfather's gone. Her voice trembled. Everyone leaves. Catelyn hugged her close. Not everyone. We carry them in here. She pressed a hand over Arya's heart. He watches through our eyes. Arya sniffed and nodded. Morning brought ravens. Robert lingered, delirious. The small council convened to draft his will. Rumors whispered that Renly fled the city under cloak of night with Loras Tyrell. City Watch doubled the gates. Tywin's spearheads approached Blackwater Rush. Catelyn read each crumb of news at the high table, where Robb's captains plotted trenches around the twins, and Edmure reviewed levy calls to shore up every ford along the Red Fork. 5 days after Hoster's death, snow ceased and a brittle sun glittered on crystalline branches. They laid Hoster Tully to rest in the river he loved. A stone-laden bier floated downstream escorted by silent boats, rowed by hooded acolytes of the Riverland's Mother Sepp. Catelyn watched from the bridge as torches touched the bier. Flames licked pine boughs, a plume of smoke curling into pale sky. Edmure's arrow found its mark, splitting the central torch to ignite the oils. The boat glowed ember bright, drifting slowly away until distance and tears blurred its light. Bryndon's head bowed. Robb stood rigid, one fist pressed to chest. When dawn streaked the sky pink-gray, the northern column at last crossed the bridges, now pledged safe by Frey vow. Behind them, Frey banners waved farewell. Before them, snow-smothered fields beckoned. They marched swift as weather allowed, wary of fresh ravens each morning. At Moat Cailin they met Ned Stark, flanked by Benjen and a retinue of skirmishers. Grey Wind bounded ahead, greeting Ghost on the rampart walkway with joyful grapples. Father and son embraced, a fierce, wordless reunion. Ned's eyes found Catelyn's. Tears and relief mingled in the cold air. In the council chamber of the old First Men's Fort, they huddled over maps. Ned's voice low, measured. Robert clings to life, but Lannister guards hold his chamber. Ser Barristan sends word that Cersei has sealed the Tower of the Hand. Stannis sails for King's Landing with 20 galleys. Renly rallies Stormlords and Tyrell Knights. Their rose and stag banners camp near Bitterbridge. Robb exhaled. All three may collide on Blackwater fields. And Tywin? Catelyn asked. Ned's gray gaze sharpened. Cross the Mander at Longtable. If he reaches King's Landing before Stannis, then Cersei crowns Joffrey behind golden shields. Edmure growled. And the pact shatters. Ned nodded. That must not be allowed. Robb pointed to the neck. Tywin cannot march by land through here without bridging Moat Cailin. A moon siege. Nor can ships cross marsh without channels cleared. Benjen drifted in like a snow wraith. Word from Black Brothers. White shadows stir beyond the wall. Rangers vanish. Your Grace, he bent to Robb, half mocking. Our foe may not care for thrones. Ned's eyes clouded. The realm burns and winter stirs its own war. He straightened. Robb, hold the neck. Edmure, strengthen River Run. I ride south tonight with a lean party. Myself, Sir Bryndon, Master Vyman, and 24 wolfskins swift on good horses. We reach King's Landing before Tywin. With Robert still alive, we can present the pact, expose false claims, and demand hostage. Catelyn's hand caught his arm. It is a trap. Perhaps, he replied. But honor holds no weight when wielded from afar. He cupped her cheek. I will wear my best armor beneath the king's justice, and your cloak at night when I remember warmth. Tears blurred her sight. I will ride with you, she said, though fear clenched. He shook his head gently. The North needs a voice of command if South falls silent. Robb is still young. He'll lean on you. He kissed her brow. Tell the children stories in the God's Wood. Tell them spring will come. Night cloaked the fortress. Torches lined the gatehouse. Horses stamped. Ned embraced each child quickly. Arya clung longest, whispered something. He smiled, slipped a small white-handled dirk into her palm. Then he mounted and spurred south, Bryndon and the wolves following into moonlit swamp mist. Catelyn watched until the last torch blur vanished, then turned into the teeth of the cold wind. She felt the second edge of peace's price cut deeper than she had feared. Far away, in a chamber sweet with night-blooming jasmines. Cersei Lannister sat beside Robert Baratheon's bed, where he lay sweating. Breaths ragged. Gold cloaks guarded door and window. Pycelle dripped essence of poppy between cracked lips while telling the queen of humors and agues, but she barely listened. Footfalls approached. She rose as Lord Tywin entered, armor still dusted from the march, though he wore no sword out of courtesy. He surveyed Robert's ruin, frowning at the bruised belly where boar tusk had cut. Cersei saw the calculation bloom behind his eyes, regret that his once ally had faded before becoming obstacle, satisfaction that a path had cleared. "He has days?" Tywin asked. "Some say hours." Cersei's voice trembled. She hated that. Tywin clasped gloved hands. "When he dies, you must name Joffrey king within the hour. Sir Boros will kneel first. Sir Meryn next. Varys will flutter, but Littlefinger controls the city watch. I have gold for the sell sails." Cersei stared at Robert's sweat-slick brow. "What of Jaime? Your brother remains tied to the riverpacks by hostages and honor." Tywin's lip lifted. "He will serve by staying out of our way." "And Ned Stark?" Tywin's eyes hardened. "He will arrive too late or not at all. But should he stand in the hall, I'll see his honor weighed against a son's life. He will yield." Tywin met her gaze. "Be a lion now, daughter. When the stag falls, roar." Cersei touched Robert's scarred hand. She felt no love, only a vague sorrow for what once seemed freedom. Then she straightened her spine. "If the realm will have a lioness, it shall hear her roar." In the dungeons below the Red Keep, Petyr Baelish walked torchlit corridors whistling a gentle tune. He paused at a cell of rusted bars where a hooded figure crouched. Slight of build, hands bound. Petyr smiled. "The dagger slips," he murmured, "but the wound festers all the same." He slid a key into the lock. "No more tasks for you, Shadowcat. The game changes." The assassin raised cold, dark eyes. Petyr knelt, placing a single coin, a mockingbird etched in brass, on the straw dado. "Take ship for Bravos tonight. When the tide turns again, the bird will call." He unlocked the chains. The figure vanished like smoke. Petyr dusted his hands, humming. Upstairs, kings died and wars brewed. Beneath, the coins of chaos clinked sweetly. At Moat Cailin, Catelyn walked the battlements under chalk moonlight, listening to wind whine through broken wall gaps. Below, campfires of the northern levees winked like scattered embers. Robb slept in the tower, and dreamt of buckling on a crown of ice perhaps. Beyond the neck, the whole realm hung upon the breath of a dying king. Too many players moved across the board now. Stannis with his austere righteousness, Renly armed with charm and rose steel, Tywin grinding packs like bones to flour, Littlefinger weaving profit from freshly spilled hearts, and somewhere, Jaime Lannister riding west between shadows of loyalty and blood. She placed a gloved hand on the hoar-frosted Merlin. Snow collected on her hood, melting in warm lashes. She thought of her mother's lullabies, of the smell of River Run's peach orchards, and of Ned riding south into storm. When her breath fogged, she whispered into it the words of the old river prayer. "Keep safe the boat that bears my heart. Guide it past the breaking rocks." The wind carried her voice into the dark marsh. And far to the north, beneath the frozen eaves of the haunted forest, another wind rose. An ancient, icy sigh that stirred dead branches and set pale shadows gliding across new snow. But none south of the wall heard that warning yet, for their ears were tuned to the clash of crowns, and their hearts beat too loudly with the drums of men. Still, the snow kept falling, quiet and inexorable, weaving a white shroud for any who thought themselves masters of tomorrow. Galgay. Dawn seeped across the neck like watery flame, staining the sloughs in bruised pink, as if the marsh itself bled beneath the ice. Catelyn stood on Moat Cailin's ragged gatehouse and watched Ned's riders disappear down the causeway, their torches bobbing until the fog swallowed every spark. Robb joined her soon after, hair tousled from poor sleep, and together they listened to the waking world. Distant cranes crying in the reeds, the clang of breakfast kettles, the muffled cough of a horse linesman below. The air smelled of salt and peat. It tasted of omens. "Father will reach White Harbor by tomorrow night," Robb said, rubbing gloved palms against the chill. "From there, the King's Road may yet be passable. Snow or no." "If he reaches Robert before the Crown's vultures descend," Catelyn replied, then forced herself to smile for his sake. "Still, we've kept more improbable faith before now." A horn note drifted from the east wall, a mellow call that signaled incoming ravens. In short order, 2 night blackbirds flapped to the rookery. Maester Lewin's apprentice scurried across the yard, robes hiked. By the time Catelyn descended, scrolls in hand, Robb had assembled his captains. Galbart Glover, Helman Tallhart, Sir Roderick Castle, beneath the half-rotted great beam arch of the ruined hall. They opened the first seal. "Robert Baratheon passed into God's keeping at sunset," it read. "Cersei Lannister, Queen Regent for his grace. Joffrey of houses Baratheon and Lannister, commands all lords to bend knee and declare fealty. Lord Eddard Stark, traitor to the crown, has conspired with Stannis Baratheon to usurp his grace's birthright and is hereby confined to chambers in the Red Keep pending trial." The second scroll, in Stannis' hand, was harsher, carved with fury. "It is known the bastards of the Queen wear the crown. Joffrey is no true son of Robert, but a spawn of incest, and the Iron Throne by rights falls to Stannis of House Baratheon. Ned Stark, true and loyal hand, affirms this claim. Let every lord who would stand for law rise now." Robb looked up, face drained. "Traitor? Father?" Helman Tallhart spat into the frost. "7 hells. Tywin moved faster than rats in a granary soon as Robert died." Catelyn swallowed hard, steadying herself on a broken lintel. Ned alive, but trapped. The Pact of Harrenhal had lasted scarcely long enough to draw breath. She rolled the scrolls, breathing through the hammer inside her chest. "We answer with calm," she said. "Father needs time. Time buys coffins," Galbart growled. "If Tywin's banners march on King's Landing, no man left free will heed Stannis' parchment." Robb's eyes hardened, blue as thin ice. "Summon banners," he said. "We take Moat Caelan's levies south. I will not sit idle while they call Father traitor." Catelyn touched his arm. "The wall of the north is patience, not rage. Tywin reckons on the wolf's leap. He may open snares along every ford." Robb's chest fell. "Then what?" "We shore our lines and cut his supply. If Tywin holds the King's Road, the Lannisters must feed 3 armies, Joffrey's city watch, his own host, and any cell sails on the Mander. Close the passes. Starve their march." "What now?" Glover nodded slowly. "Barrow horse can harry cart trains. Flint's finger raiders strike coast depots. We choke the throat force parley." Robb's gaze swung to Sir Roderick. "Send word to Lady Mormont. Bear Island's longboats raid every Lannister contract vessel bound for King's Landing." "No half measures," Catelyn said. "We act as guardians of the pact, nothing more. Our banners fly with the white flag until they soil it with blood." "Mangassi." Robb squared his shoulders. "So be it. Assemble at the Feverwater by fortnight's end. Light pack only, hunt off land. We move silent." Within hours ravens winged from every tower. Horns called men from the shadowed forests of the Wolfswood. From Frostfang passes, from the cold green vales beneath the last river. They came on shaggy mountain horses, on reindeer sleds, on stout plow drafters whose hooves had never trod further than a winter market. Moat Caelan's grim causeway flooded with humanity, and the marsh echoed with the clamor of boot and spear. That same hour in King's Landing, rain lashed the cobbled squares outside the great sept. Bells told the Stag King's passing. Low, funereal, yet beneath the mournful thunder lay a thrill of Goldcloak's boot stomps. Inside the Red Keep's Tower of the Hand, Ned Stark sat in a cold room stripped of tapestries, his wrists iron cuffed to the chair's frame. Silhouettes of Baratheon guard dogs flickered on the wall torchlight. Outside, Barristan Selmy's voice murmured stern entreaties that echoed off marble like distant surf. Door opened. Varys entered alone, robes plum dark, powder-hued face, sweating. "Lord Stark," he whispered, "the realm teeters. Joffrey sits the throne at dusk. Lord Tywin is a day from the city with 12,000 Westermen. Littlefinger commands the city watch. I fear your hour grows narrow. Ned's eyes, flinty as the day he first arrived, fixed on the eunuch. Does Stannis still sail? Past Duskendale already, Varys breathed. Yet no guarantee he lands before Tywin. Ned rested shackled hands on his knees. I will speak the truth in the throne room. If Robert's small council has one shred of honor left. Honor? Varys' lips trembled into a rueful smile. Honor is the shield of the dying. My lord the queen has drafted a confession, false albeit generous. Sign it, name Joffrey, the true king, and she sends you to the wall in exile. To live while the kingdom rots? Ned asked. I would sooner swing. Varys sighed. A dead stick cannot prop a crumbling garden. Living you remain a root, one that may break stone in time. Ned looked beyond the eunuch to the arrow slit where rain sheeted like tears on string. My children need a root that stands tall, not stoops under tyranny. I will not lie to save my skin. The eunuch's shoulders slumped. Then may the gods have mercy. He withdrew. Outside, lightning burst and thunder rattled the bedrock foundations. Jaime Lannister's palfrey splashed through a puddle of molten moonlight where the trident forked, hooves flinging cold sparks. 4 riders, Riverlanders and Westermen both, escorted him to the edge of Sarsfield lands to meet the vanguard of his father's host. He wore no chains now, only the memory of them. Cold ghosts clamped round his wrists. Housepiper's captain, Sir Kennet, parted ways with a grave nod at dawn. So did Lady Smallwood's nephew. Only Sir Adam Marbrand remained, prouder lion swagger returning as he spotted the first crimson pennants crack in a westerly wind. Tywin waited atop a low ridge, armor gleaming dully under waxed cloak. Gauntleted fingers curled over Red Rain's pommel. His captains ringed him like silent statues. When Jaime dismounted, handing reins to a squire, his father's pale green gaze scanned him head to toe. You arrive with neither host nor hostage, Tywin said. I bring the river's breath at my back, Jaime replied. And word, break the pact, and you reap steel from every bank to Seaguard. The neck closes, the north starves you. Tywin's expression did not shift. Words from children who cannot hold a bridge. Words from Robb Stark, Jaime corrected, who now commands 25,000 Northmen, and more Riverlords by the day. Your wagons will never pass the Twins, else burn in the Wolfswood. Shine. Kevin Lannister murmured beside his brother. We counted on Eastmarch grain through Maidenpool and Duskendale, not on the King's Road. Glover raids the King's Road behind us, Jaime said. Mormont prowls the narrow sea. Tywin raised a brow. Is this counsel or defiance? Both, Jaime answered. Robert is dead. Cersei crowns a bastard. Your grandson's reign will be measured in candle wicks, unless the realm sees lions keep oaths. Turn west, father. Fortress a wall between the fighting Baratheons and your gold. Diarn. Silence swept the ridge. Frost crickets strummed beneath withered grass stalks. At last Tywin unbuckled his helm and handed it to a page. You would have me abandon my blood? You abandon it now by marching into blades, Jaime said. I saw a man in Harrenhal who yearned to be more than the sword his father forged. Perhaps I can't be him, but I'll not trade his breath for pride. Tywin's jaw worked. The lion banner behind him snapped in a sudden gust. Then, unexpectedly, he nodded once. We hold the Mander, he said. Secure provisions, let the curs rip each other. He looked to Sir Kevin. Send dispatch to the city watch. Tywin stays where gold speaks louder than guts. Cersei must defend her crown with her own cunning. Jaime bowed slightly, relief cutting the tension from his shoulders. Yet Tywin's final glance sliced razor sharp. Fail me again, son, an oath or no. I will craft a legacy without you. Jaime watched his father ride down slope, a silhouette of iron and will. He exhaled. Better iron at his back than in his belly, he muttered. Sir Adam stared. You spoke as though you gave a damn. About the realm? Jaime smirked without warmth. About an 11-year-old boy too proud for his own hide. And a woman at the Twins who believes peace is hammer and anvil. He swung into the saddle. Ride. Catelyn's fingers traced the ridges of Manderlin mapboards in Moat Caelan's war chamber, the candle stub guttering low. She had not slept in 2 nights. Fear a prowling direwolf at her shoulder. Beneath her palm the carved inlets of the neck shifted in dancing lamplight, as though tides swelled inside the wood. A knock. Jiw. Robb entered, cloak dripping sleet. Scouts returned. Tywin turned west at the Sowers Way. He moves to occupy Bitterbridge and the Gold Road, not the King's Road. Relief flickered. Jaime, she breathed. Or caution, Robb said. Either buys us weeks. Father? No, Raven. Her voice barely steadied. Yet if Tywin halts, the Queen may grow desperate. Robb paced. Stannis approaches by sea. Renly's host moves north from Bitterbridge. 3 crowns, 1 city. And father in the jaws, she whispered. They studied each other's shadows in the flame. Robb looked older than his years, but his eyes still held the boy who gathered summer roses for Bran. She reached, cupped his cheek. If the battle falls to fire, remember, we guard our folk first. The North can weather storms long after lions and stags devour one another. He nodded. But the vow tasted bitter to a youth whose father faced chains. He squared shoulders. I will hold the neck with Karstark and Tallheart. You ride to White Harbor. Rally Lord Manderly, ready ships to pluck survivors when tides drag wreckage north. She blinked, startled. You would send me from the front? Someone must weave the diplomacy father cannot, he said. No other carries the weight of both wolf and trout. His mouth twitched, humbled. I have the sword. I need your quill. She considered, then inclined her head. We sail at first tide. By dawn, Catelyn rode east with Galbart Glover and 50 honor guard, while Robb reviewed palisade trenches half buried in blown snow. Near midday, a horn blast parted clouds. A lone rider on a wind-lathered mare approached from the east, clutching a broken spear for banner. Catelyn reined up. The rider tumbled from the saddle. An airy courier, cloak torn. Your lady's sister. Sends warning, he gasped as they knelt. Lord Petter has seized the gates of the moon. Lysa flees toward Gulltown with the boy. He vows the veil for Joffrey. Catelyn felt ice settle on her ribs. The mockingbird has found new perch. She murmured. Betrayal layered betrayal until truth itself seemed a cracked mirror. Noon found her scribbling hurried letters at a travel desk in the Holdfast stables. To Lord Manderly, to Lady Dustin, to Tully Bannerman, still wavering, to Brienne of Tarth, whose blade might yet guard Renly's untrustworthy heart. She sealed each with wax, pressing Ned's direwolf seal ring, left in her keeping, into the soft scarlet. As she worked, she sensed the world shifting beyond the timber walls like a beast turning in sleep. That same dusk, at the mouth of Blackwater Bay, Stannis Baratheon's galleys slipped through gray seas under a sliver moon. Deck silent, sails reefed against the wind's mournful sigh. Aboard the flagship Fury, Davos Seaworth watched torch clusters on the distant shore, counting how many belonged to city watch patrols, how many to desperate fisher hovels. Beside him, Stannis stood motionless, jaw granite, eyes fixed on Egon's tall keep. Somewhere inside that craggy sprawl, Ned Stark awaited either trial or noose. If Melisandre speaks truth, Davos ventured, the Red God's flames will guide your claim. Stannis' stern profile did not bend. The only guiding I trust is steel and rightful blood. We land at dawn and qualify small council with sword point. No more pageants. Davos nodded. Yet his gaze lingered on the Red Keep. Thunderclouds massed overhead, lightning flicking like rent veils. For a moment, the old smuggler felt the sea beneath shift unnaturally. Some great leviathan turning. But when he craned over the gunwale, only dark waves lapped the hull. In winter, winds that whipped along the battlements. The night's watch fought its own dread. 2 rangers returned half-frozen, babbling of shapes with blue eyes stalking the Frostfang passes. Their reports reached Castle Black hours before dawn. Lord Commander Jor Mormont penned urgent crows. Though he doubted any southern rookery would prioritize black feathers, in these days of crown wars. Still, he wrote, the chill in his bones spoke of worse things than Lannister spears. 4 days after Robert's death, bells tolled again. This time not for mourning. In King's Landing's great sept, Joffrey Baratheon knelt under a canopy of golden tapestries, while the High Septon anointed his brow. Cersei watched, radiant in emerald and pride. Tywin's seat on the dais sat conspicuously empty, though ravens proclaimed his approval from afar. Ned Stark, escorted by 2 gold cloaks, stood among a cluster of lords and ladies along the nave's left aisle. His wrists were unshackled for ceremony's sake, yet crossbows bristled above from gallery alcoves. Still, he held his shoulders straight. When the Septon declared Joffrey king, Ned closed his eyes, an instant only, then opened them clear. Barristan Selmy stepped forward to kneel and present sword. Behind him, 5 Kingsguard in fresh white cloaks followed. When Jaime's place remained vacant, whispers flickered like candle gutters. Cersei ignored them. All eyes turned to Ned when the herald cried, "We call any who dispute the coronation to speak or hold their peace." Silence. A silence sweating with dread. Ned stepped forward. Gasps, dawings. He held no sword, only parchment bearing Robert's own seal. He lifted it. "By King Robert's word," he said, voice ringing despite the hush. "I stand regent for his rightful heir Stannis Baratheon, first of that name. This boy Joffrey is no son of Robert. His claim is forged in sin." Cersei's face blanched, then burned scarlet. Crossbows cocked, strings taut. The High Septon froze mid-benediction. Ned's gaze met Barristan's. The old knight's eyes shimmered with conflict. But before Ader could speak, a clash of steel burst from the sept's western door. Soldiers in Lannister crimson surged, led by Sandor Clegane. They swept the aisle. Gold cloaks raised pikes, surrounding Ned. Cersei's voice cracked like whip. "Seize the traitor." And so, in the House of the Seven, iron clashed amid cries and shattered candle stands. Barristan stepped toward Ned, but Meryn Trant blocked him, blade drawn. The old knight parried once, twice. Sandor lunged at Ned. A dagger flashed from the crowd. Not toward Stark, but toward Joffrey on the dais. Lancel shoved the boy aside, blade grazing cheek, ruby drops staining new ermine. Chaos howled. Varys disappeared. Littlefinger emerged brandishing only a slim stiletto, yet found purchase in straining throats. Tyrell retainers hustled Margaery away. Gendry Waters, stableboy turned smith's apprentice, shielded Sansa behind marble column, until gold cloaks dragged them apart. In the melee, Ned's parchment fell, trampled. He fought with hand-and-a-half sword borrowed from a disgraced knight. Fought like Winterfell itself stood under siege. But weight of numbers pressed. Barristan, wounded, forced past Trant to block Clegane's downward stroke a hair from Ned's skull. "Enough," the old knight barked. But his own guard brothers ringed him. White cloaks now red dabbled. When bells finally ceased, Ned Stark knelt on broken mosaic, blood seeping from a cut along his brow. Sword gone, arms wrenched behind. Joffrey, white with shock, dabbed his cheek. Cersei hissed orders. Queensguard prodded Ned to his feet. Barristan, eyes wide, allowed himself to be disarmed. The sept smelled of incense, blood, and shattered sanctity. From the transept's shadow, Sandor dragged a slight figure, Arya Stark's dancing master Syrio, collapsed D across shattered candle stubs, chest pierced. Catelyn's far-off prayer reached none there. Only distant thunder answered. Ravens beat frantic wings across still air as the tail of the sept carnage sped north. In Moat Cailin, Catelyn received the tattered scroll at dawn in White Harbor's anchorage, snow swirling onto the dock Carrick wave kisser. She read and read again. Eddard Stark condemned for high treason. Sentence delayed pending royal mercy. The scroll dripped salt sleet onto her gloves. "Mercy," she whispered, voice hollow. Beside her, Lord Wyman Manderley, vast as a small hill in sealskin cloak, groaned low. "I will bring every mast from Sisterton to Skagos to bear your fleet," he swore. "If they harm Lord Eddard, no Lannister ship will trade port for a decade." Catelyn nodded mutely, but her pulse hammered a single awful thought. Mercy from Joffrey and Cersei meant a head on spike or exile to the wall. A bargaining chip. She turned to Galbart. We must reach Robb. The boy king may march north with Sansa hostage, or Arya, if she survived the riot. Galbart frowned. Karstark riders can reach the Fever Water by 9 days. River ice thaws sooner than horse pace. Catelyn seized the ship rail, staring at choppy harbor full of gulls. Then I sail into the Bight tonight, outpace ravens if wind favors. Lord Wyman pressed a fat hand to his heart. My fastest carrack stands at your disposal. The sea can carry grief, my lady, but sometimes it returns peace. She managed a wan smile. Then let it return my husband whole. Within 2 hours, the Carrack Sea Lantern raised slate-gray sails. Catelyn stood at prow, wind whipping hair free, salt spray stinging eyes. She watched White Harbor recede, a smear of smoke and stone, and prayed each moment for the wind to hold steady. Below in the hold, Galbart studied new intelligence. Reports of Littlefingers hold on the Eyrie, of Dorne's sudden silence, of crackling green flames glimpsed in the harbor of King's Landing. Wildfire shipments, perhaps. The storm thrummed silently ahead. 200 leagues south, Jaime Lannister guided his destrier along a ridge above the Mander's Oxbow. His father's host fanned across the golden fields, crossroads villages raising supplicant banners at their approach. Yet his thoughts roamed north. Ned's stand, Catelyn's resolve, Arya's narrow escape. He wondered if oaths truly bound a realm this fractured, or if every word was knucklebone dice rattling in fate's hand. That night, by dim campfire, he wrote a letter. Lady Catelyn, war stirs the worst of men. My father tarries, yet King's Landing overflows with knives. I send this courier through river paths to warn you. The Queen's mercy is a blade disguised. If Stark blood is the price, Lannister sons will pay too. May the gods turn our swords aside. Jaime of House Lannister. He sealed it with lion wax, and entrusted it to a cell sail known for midnight crossings. Above the camp, comets streaked faint against a moonless black omen talk, muttered among sentries. Jaime watched the sky, thinking how easily stars seemed tears. The Carrack Sea Lantern skimmed the Bight under a howling east wind. Shrouds straining, masts creaking. Catelyn stood at the helm with Captain Ryon, cloak aflutter, gaze fixed on the dusky horizon. Before night's black-swallowed sky, they glimpsed a faint glow. Auroras dancing turquoise across northern firmament, shimmering curtains of ghost fire. Even seasoned sailors crossed themselves. Old tales say the lights come when the dead walk, Ryon muttered. Catelyn shivered, but her resolve burned brighter. They trimmed sail, driving on. Off the port bow, narwhals breached, horns glistening. Seabirds wheeled like white flecks on spilled ink. Spray glazed hair and lashes. Salt tears of the ocean. Every minute carried her nearer the heart of war, and further from her childhood's rivers. Yet no regrets weighed her, only love and defiance. At King's Landing, 4 days after the Sept slaughter, a wooden platform rose in the muddy courtyard of the Red Keep. The king, Joffrey, crown too big on slender brow, commanded a show of justice to bolster his reign. Thousands crammed the square. Sansa Stark, pale and trembling, waited in the balcony gilded for queens. Barristan Selmy, dismissed from the King's Guard the night before, stood unhelmed among the crowd, eyes sunken. The High Septon prayed from scrolls clutched in shaking hands. Eddard Stark, shackled but unbowed, was marched onto the scaffold. The sword of Lord Tomard of the City Watch, a crude imitation of ice, rested against a block. Cersei, in jade silk, watched from the dais, vacant smile. Ned surveyed the masses, searched for daughters. He saw Sansa, eyes swollen, and mustered a smile. Then he saw a flash of brown hair and gray tunic far below, weaving like a shadow through legs. Arya, alive! Relief flooded. He turned to the boy king. Your Grace, he said, voice steady. I confess to the charge of treason. I acted to overthrow your majesty, guided by Lord Stannis. I beg mercy. The crowd gasped, hissed, but Joffrey's grin widened feral. Cersei leaned to whisper, but the boy jerked away. My mother wishes mercy, he proclaimed. But my reign begins with strength. Catelyn, bring me his head. Roars erupted. Cersei blanched, turned, too late. Sansa screamed. Barristan surged forward, but Goldcloaks shoved back lances. Ned knelt, eyes on the cobble, then flicked to area under the platform. He mouthed, "Run." Catelyn lifted false ice. Sun glinted. Time slowed. Seagulls cried. Bells tolled. Distant wildfire crates whispered their promise of apocalypse in cellars below the city. And the blade swung. No mortal shout pierced the thunder of the crowd, louder than the silence that followed. Eddard Stark's head, severed in a single stroke, tumbled into straw. A rider beyond the gates, who moments earlier had set spurs to deliver Jaime's desperate letter, turned back, icy dread clutching his heart. High above, on the balcony, Sansa collapsed. Cersei grabbed Joffrey's arm in fury, but the boy only admired the blood on his boots. Arya vanished like a wisp. Lightning cracked the sky shot, with aurora lights now creeping south. Reflections of horror in heavens. Barristan Selmy, tears on weathered cheeks, slipped away. In Flea Bottom, men whispered of kings cursed. In the Red Keep, wildfire barrels waited for spark. In the silent crypt of Winterfell, ancient kings rumbled beneath stone. Across the narrowed sea lanes of the Bight, Catelyn felt the ship lurch. No storm. But something in her chest collapsed. She clutched rail, breath wrenched. Galbart caught her elbow. "My lady." She shook her head slowly, tears blurring horizon. "Hay is gone," she whispered, though no raven had come. "I feel it." Snow began to fall. Thick, wet flakes that melted on deck, yet seared her cheeks. She straightened, gathering cloak around her. "Turn north," she told the captain. "We go to Winterfell. The true war has begun."